Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 795. Because I hate darkness, I strive to become the light. Before Luo Yan announced it, Heo said, "Your method, can't it be, to push down the Black Peak?" Black Peak is the name given by the command center to the peak, where Dang He laid the egg. Although Heo's personality is straightforward, it doesn't mean that he is stupid or stubborn. So when he heard that Luo Yan rejected the plan to climb to the top and smash the egg, he immediately thought of this crazy and bold idea. Luo Yan nodded slightly. Yes, destroy the Black Peak and let it fall by itself. This way we don't have to climb to the top, and the eggs laid by Dang He will be smashed to pieces. Even if the Black Peak doesn't fall, it won't be a big problem. There are descendants of Dang He on the Black Peak. It must pay attention to the Black Peak, otherwise it wouldn't have so many middle and lower level feathered beasts guarding it at high altitude. Once Dang He knows that the Black Peak is under attack, he will be distracted. In that case, Captain Jiuying and his men will have a chance. Yan Wenbo pondered for a while and said, "This is a good idea, but no matter whether the Black Peak is inferred or not, we are bound to enter Dang He's field of vision. How can we get out then?" Luo Yan looked out of the panoramic window and looked in a certain direction. If Dang He reveals a flaw, I believe that Captain Jiuying and his men will not let us have the opportunity to see Dang He. Yan Wenbo was stunned when he heard this. Then he laughed and said, "You are right. Okay, I will contact the command center now." Soon, the command center had a result. They supported Luo Yan's plan. Hearing this news, Heo immediately expressed his desire to participate. However, the command center required the mecha masters with unique skills to go into battle, just like the last time they dealt with Tsui, and the others stayed in place and waited for the opportunity. Among them, only Bei was an exception. Although she did not have unique skills, her strange liberation was better than most low-quality unique skills. Therefore, she was also among the ranks of the battle. The people were soon selected, and the next step was to rush into the core area and reach the foot of the Black Peak. Looking forward at the densely packed demon hair covering the forefields, and the puppet giant beasts controlled by Dang He that rushed out from the hair from time to time, Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "I will take the lead." Yan Wenbo did not object. "Okay, each person will be responsible for 5 minutes. Xiao Luo is the first, I'm the second, Xiao Bei is the third, and it will be repeated in turn. If there is no problem, let's go." The energy furnace of Ban roared, and a steady stream of energy was transmitted to various parts of the mecha body. This god level body immediately rushed forward. A puppet giant beast appeared in front of him, and behind it were countless strange hairs, black and dense, like a sea mocking Luo Yan's self-importance. The storm rifle was raised. In line with the principle of saving energy, Luo Yan used physical ammunition to deal with this low-level monster. Bang 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 bang! Exclamation mark. The violent gunshots sounded the horn of counterattack, and the storm-like barrage of bullets enveloped the body of the monster, and blood plasma and minced meat immediately sprayed into the air. Bion fired while facing the monster, and crashed into the sea of hair. This was his answer. In the cab, Heo looked out of the panoramic window. Led by Bion, 3 mechas crashed into the endless darkness and gradually went away. Heo was silent, but clenched his fists tightly. A private conversation appeared in the communication channel. Sujiyu whispered, "Are you okay?" Heo exhaled and said, "After this battle, I want to exchange for a unique skill. Next time. I don't want to be a bystander anymore." At this time, if you look down from a high altitude, you will see flames flickering from different directions of the forbidden area. Compared with the turbulent dark ocean deep in the forbidden area at this moment, these flames are really insignificant. However, these flames are unexpectedly stubborn. Instead of following the flow of the waves, they go upstream and strive to burst into the deepest part of the ocean and the deepest part of the darkness. Every bit of fire represents the will of mankind to resist. Although it is weak, it seems to be eternal. Surface base, command center. The commander stood on the bridge and looked at the big screen in front. Because of Dang Hu's super anti-film, the situation in the forbidden area can no longer be seen. There is only a large black area on the screen. In this black area, there are light spots representing mecha signals, moving towards the core area of the forbidden area from different directions. These flickering points of light concern everyone in the command center. For tens of millions of years, humans have lived on this planet, constantly encountering natural disasters and man-made disasters. The commander's eyes were deep and his voice was full of magnetism. But whether it was raining fire from the sky, plague from the earth, or war and riots, none of them completely wiped out humans. That's because, every time there is trouble, every time darkness falls, there are always some people who are willing to burn themselves and go against the flow. Don't they know how dark and difficult the road ahead is? They know. But they hate darkness. Because they hate darkness, they strive to become light. That light will always illuminate fate and let humans find hope for continuation. Listening to the commander's words, a woman's eyes were full of tears. She clenched her hands and shouted at the big screen. Come on. You have to come on. A man stood up, clenched his fists and shouted, Go. Go forward. Don't stop. More and more people stood up, loudly encouraging all the retrogrades and conveying their thoughts through their voices. At this moment, everyone's heart is connected. And this kind of heart, those who were swimming upstream, all felt it. They were all encouraged. This encouragement from the rear even made their yuan li, which was suppressed by the super anti-membrane, become a little more active. So the speed of the flames was a little faster. After an unknown number of rotations, Bian once again served as a pioneer, slashing out with a sword, and the demon hair in front was separated to the left and right. Luo Yan's eyes suddenly lit up. Outside the panoramic window, behind the separated demon hair, there was actually an open space. A huge open space. They killed their way out. After running forward for a while, Luo Yan still couldn't believe it, and looked back. Behind him was a dark sea of strange hair. In front of him was a vast open land. In the center of this area, a dark mountain rose from the ground. Black Peak. From this distance, you can see that the so-called Black Peak is made up of a number of hair clusters as big as rivers swelling and twisting. The mountain they created has a huge base, which makes people feel that it is difficult to shake. I didn't feel this way when I was far away. But now that I was close to this huge black mountain, Yan Wenbo suspected that even with a mecha, he would not be able to push down this peak. Chapter 796, Breaking the Surface with a Point. Other mechas that came against the current and participated in the feat of pushing the peak arrived one after another. Some of them traveled together, and some traveled alone. The mechas were more or less damaged, and Luo Yan and the other two were no exception. When the mechas arrived and saw the peak in front of them, everyone asked questions similar to Yan Wenbo, but none of them were discouraged. After all, Luo Yan had mentioned before that, even if they couldn't push the peak down, as long as they attracted the attention of Dang Hu and made the Overlord Beast reveal its flaws, their trip would be worthwhile. However, based on the idea of I'm here now, these people were unwilling to just let Black Peak shake and go back. So they began to discuss how to really push Black Peak down so that Dang Hu would know how powerful humans are. Even Yan Wenbo participated in the discussion. Only Luo Yan and Bei did not participate. Luo Yan came to the foot of Black Peak and began to use peeping silver eyes to analyze the surface veins of this peak. Bei was not interested in discussing the matter of pushing down the mountain. After a while, Yan Wenbo and his people came up with a lot of ideas. Some of them were imaginative and some were basically bad ideas. Just when these people began to discuss which method to use, Luo Yan's voice rang out in the communication channel. I observed the internal structure of Black Peak. It is not solid, that is, its mass is not as large as it looks from the outside. This sentence gave everyone a reassurance. Someone said, what kind of magical possession is Xiao Luo? He can actually observe the interior of the Black Peak. I just scanned it with several instruments such as sonar and spectrometer, but none of them could penetrate the material on the surface of the Black Peak. Xiao Luo can actually figure out its structure. That's amazing. Yan Wenbo chuckled and said, Luo Yan's magical possession is the air-seeing pupil. Air-seeing pupil. That's impossible. I've never heard that the air-seeing pupil has this ability. Captain Yan, either you are bragging, or you are hiding something. Luo Yan was afraid that Yan Wenbo would be drowned in saliva, so he hurriedly said, my magical possession has been transformed with the primordial stone fragments. It is no longer the air-seeing pupil. I knew it. How could the air-seeing pupil have this ability? If the air-seeing pupil transformed, I remember it was the barrier-breaking eye. In this case, it makes sense that it can figure out the structure of the Black Peak. Shut up, all of you. I didn't call you here to listen to your nonsense. Luo, ignore them. Go on, what's going on inside the Black Peak? Luo Yan smiled and continued his previous words. The interior of the Black Peak is woven into a honeycomb structure by strands of strange hair. The biggest feature of this structure is stability. This should be the reason why the Black Peak is not solid, but can be built so high, and is not easy to collapse. Normally, it is not so easy to destroy such a structure from the root of the mountain. However, I just found some relatively fragile structures at the root of the mountain. According to my speculation, if we destroy from these places, we should be able to cause a large-scale collapse of the Black Peak. Once the root of the mountain collapses on a large scale, even if the Black Peak is hollow, it will inevitably tilt and collapse. Yan Wenbo nodded and said, that's easy. Each of us will be responsible for one place and use our unique skills to bombard it with all our strength. Not to mention blowing up the Black Peak. Destroying a part of it is still possible. Luo Yan said, I think so too, if you think it's okay. Now I will mark these locations on the Black Peak model. Someone immediately responded, okay, do it this way. Mark those fragile parts, and we will divide them up, each responsible for a location, and knock down this mountain. Soon, everyone received a model diagram, on which Luo Yan had marked the relatively vulnerable parts of the Black Peak structure with red dots. These locations were actually the flaws discovered by Luo Yan's peeping silver eyes, after he analyzed the veins of the Black Peak. After receiving the model, everyone chose a location, and then acted separately. Bei also chose one. Before leaving, Luo Yan sent a private message. I'm not with you, you have to be careful. Hearing this, Bei felt as sweet as eating honey. I know. Don't worry, it's just breaking the mountain. It won't take much time. And now, the time limit for me to release the weirdness has become longer, nearly 2 minutes. I think I can at least hold on for 5 minutes after entering Tungsten. Bei was so happy that she talked non-stop, but she didn't stop because of this. When she finished the last sentence, Bei had already arrived at the place she was responsible for. I'm going to start working. Luo Yan. See you later. Hearing the girl's voice coming from the communicator, Luo Yan nodded gently. See you later. Then, he looked at the position he was responsible for. In the silver eyes of the Tao, he locked onto the mountain. Not only were the veins on the surface sparse, but the veins were also broken and incomplete. This formed a gap in the entire vein. Compared with Lin Yuanfang, a strong man in the Tangxuan realm, dead things have more flaws, and they will not change constantly due to various factors. Therefore, Luo Yan did not spend much time to find those flaws. Looking at this in front of him, he practiced his skills, and the golden light flowed around the Bayan, and then the flames burst out and boiled. It was Luo Yan who activated the secret method, Kaoan Wheel. This simple secret method allowed Luo Yan to burst out with considerable combat power. Now Luo Yan has learned a lot of secret methods. But for this first secret method he mastered, Luo Yan always has a special feeling. First, because he is very familiar with it, using the Kaoan Wheel is as natural as breathing. Second, because this is the first secret method he learned, and it was a secret method passed on to him by Zeng. Even if other secrets are more powerful, in terms of emotion, no secret can compare to the Kaoan Wheel. As soon as the Yuan Wheel was opened, Luo Yan's energy was boiling. Bei rushed to the target. The distance kept shrinking. When the two sides were only 10 steps apart, Dragon Elephant slashed diagonally, and the sword light was brilliant, like a silk thread. It swept across the mountain of Black Peak. A unique skill, a kill every 10 steps. The mountain shook, and then a crack appeared. In a blink of an eye, a huge cracked texture emerged. Boom. Countless strange hairs exploded and erupted, turning into a puff of black smoke. B had already drifted away after the attack and was not sprayed by the black smoke. When the smoke dispersed a little, Luo Yan saw that the foot of Black Peak was shattered by his sword. Even now, there was a roar inside the mountain, and the structure inside was still collapsing. It seemed to have formed a chain reaction. This is the power of hitting the floor of a dead object. It is entirely possible to use the method of breaking the surface with a point to cause a total collapse. Chapter 797 The mountain collapses. When Luo Yan took action, others also took action one after another. Embroidered Tiger still transformed into a drill and directly drilled and exploded the part that Yan Wenbo was responsible for. The entire Black Peak was shaking and roaring. This vibration and roar started from the root of the mountain, but continued to spread upwards, and even the entire mountain was shaking. At the same time, the face of the magic machine 8 gates had switched to a green-faced and fanged evil ghost mask. Bay released the weird blue Zyro and released its true form. The air was shaking, and 2 arms covered with patterns and black and blue flames leaping on their claws appeared out of thin air. Then they held the air in vain, pulled left and right, and tore the void, tearing out a gap with bizarre and colorful inside. A huge figure drilled out of the gap. An indigo body appeared in the air, covered with complex and evil patterns. The violent aura immediately spread like a storm and filled this space. The blue goblin, half of its body exposed, had rough skin, shaped like rhinoceros skin. It had a messy hair, but every strand of it was condensed from black and blue flames. The blue flame hair was scattered on its shoulders, covering its face. Under the messy hair, the eyes were glowing red, revealing madness. On the blue goblin's ferocious face, 2 huge fangs spewed out from its upper lip. On the top of its head, a red horn with strands of black and blue flames emerged. The evil ghost that squeezed out half of its ghost body from the void roared at this world and then pounced towards the position where Bay was locked. The blue goblin clenched his fist roughly and punched the mountain of Black Peak. A huge fireball immediately erupted from the mountain. After the blue flames dissipated, a depression appeared on the mountain. I don't know how many strange hairs were burned to ashes by the blue flames. But the blue goblin was obviously not satisfied with this result, so it raised its hands high, and its 10 sharp claws sprayed out dazzling blue flames from the claws. The flames shot straight into the sky, and as the blue goblin crossed his hands and grabbed down, a series of crisscrossing blue lights immediately appeared on the Black Peak. As the blue light flashed, countless fragments exploded, and in a blink of an eye, this mountain was almost hollowed out by the blue goblin's attack. Rumble. After enduring the attacks of many mechs and blue goblin on the floors, the roots of the Black Peak spewed out black smoke. Rumble. The mountains collapsed, and the ground cracked. The mountain tilted visibly. Fall. 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 In the communication channel, people shouted in unison, expecting to see the scene of the Black Peak falling. However, the facts disappointed them. Even though the roots of the Black Peak had been destroyed, and a large area of the mountain collapsed, there were black hairs swirling like pillars inside the mountain. This pillar is the core of the Black Peak. There are also cracks all over the pillar, and from time to time, the demon hair breaks and scatters. But the overall structure of the pillar has not collapsed. The previous attacks of everyone have penetrated and spread to the root of the mountain, and even this pillar has been affected. But it still cannot be broken, which shows that this core-like pillar is very hard. Luo Yan also discovered this situation. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the data given by the silver eyes of peeping. If he wants to smash this pillar, he probably needs to use the 10 steps 1 kill again. Wait. Luo Yan suddenly had an idea. Maybe it doesn't have to be so troublesome. After saying that, the Bion turned around and ran away. A voice came from the communication channel immediately. Why did Luo leave? Did he give up? You left without informing me. That's not very kind. Then what should we do? Should we leave too? If we leave, we should leave together. I don't want to get stuck in the evil hair by myself anymore. Amidst the clamor, Beike said, Luo Yan won't leave without a word. The communication channel was quiet for a moment. Then someone said, who is this little girl? Don't you know? It's Bei who cut Sui into pieces that day. Oh, it's her. I heard she's Luo Yan's classmate. What classmate? She must be Luo Yan's girlfriend. Otherwise, why would she defend Luo Yan so much? In the cab of the 8 gates, Bei's face suddenly turned red. Fortunately, Yan Wenbo came out to rescue him. Okay, stop talking. You bunch of rough guys. What do you know? Stop making assumptions. Look, Bayan has stopped. Yes, Bayan has stopped. Luo Yan had no intention of leaving. The silver-colored tiger pattern Bayan stopped, turned around, lowered its center of gravity, and made a running gesture. Suddenly, all the thrusters on the back opened, and blue electric fire shot out, forming huge kinetic energy, pushing Bayan as if sliding on ice. The mecha stuck to the ground, raised dust and rushed towards Black Peak at lightning speed. Yan Wenbo immediately shouted, I understand. Luo Yan wants to knock down Black Peak. Is it possible? Why not? As long as the power is enough, it will be a matter of one step. Why bother so much? Just do it. Go ahead, Luo Yan. Go, knock down Black Peak. In the cab of the 8 gates, Bei looked out from the panoramic window and saw Bayan flashing across the ground like a meteor. Student Luo Yan, knock it down. The girl clenched her pink fists and locked her eyes on Bayan. Then she saw that Bayan, with the help of the thrusters, rushed to the vicinity of the Black Peak mountain. At this time, the Bayan's body lit up, and the golden flames of Yuanli like the sun boiled up into the sky, rumbling like a volcanic eruption. A huge momentum rose to the sky. Secret method, Kaoan wheel. With the help of the secret method and the power of the booster, Bayan bent his legs and supported himself on the mountain of Hefeng. Bang! A circle of ripples visible to the naked eye spread out. Wherever this circle of ripples passed, the mountain of Hefeng cracked, and countless demon hairs broke and flew, turning into thick black smoke. The mountain created by Dang Hu cracked and shook violently, and the cracks on the axis column in the middle of the root of the mountain appeared again. Finally, a thick smoke spurted out from the column on the side of the impact direction of Bayan, and countless demon hairs broke, and the stability and balance of the axis column were finally broken. Slowly but firmly tilted in the opposite direction. Rumble. Black Peak shook, and the peak slid down diagonally. The bird's nest on the top of the peak, which was woven by a tangled mass of demon hair, slid down to the west along with 7 or 8 huge grey-white bird eggs inside. The angle of the Black Peak tilted more and more. When it exceeded 30 degrees, a thunder-like explosion sounded at the bottom of the mountain, and a large amount of thick smoke was emitted. Finally, the peak tilted down, and the peak emerged from the thick clouds above, and hit the ground heavily. Before the Black Peak landed, 7 or 8 grey-white bird eggs in the bird's nest on the top of the mountain had already fallen to the ground. They were smashed to pieces, and the egg liquid splashed everywhere. The black and mucus-covered chicks inside were smashed to pieces. Chapter 798, Reduced to Ashes. Ding ding dang dang. Somewhere in the forbidden area. Looking around, the sky is full of black tides that cover the sky and the sun. It is all the beard needle rain erupted by Dang Hu. There are too many of these things, densely packed, with almost no gaps. King Gilin and Zuanai set up large shields to protect Xing behind them. Took on this wave of attacks. So far in the battle, the 3 mechs have been scarred, and Dang Hu is not having a good time either. Although it can achieve a certain degree of regeneration by gathering the strange hair in the forbidden area. However, it is an ironclad fact that its aura is constantly declining. This overlord beast is very difficult to deal with. In terms of pure destructive power, it is far inferior to the Huan that was evolving into a nightmare beast in the Misty Canyon before. But its abilities such as shadow manipulation, mind reading, and soul capture are very strange. After the beast soul appeared, the strange arts developed based on this are even more strange. If Xing and the other 2 had not covered each other, they would have capsized in the gutter, allowing Dang Hu to take away the mecha and turn into a puppet. At this time, Dang Hu roared and was about to attack again. But at this moment, it seemed to sense something, and the red figure on its head suddenly looked in the direction of Hefeng. The eyesight of the feathered beast is so sharp, not to mention an existence of Dang Hu's level. If it wanted to, it could even see every corner of the forbidden area. Every one. And now, when it looked at Hefeng, it saw Hefeng. It saw that the Black Peak that it had woven with its beard with great difficulty had now fallen to the ground. It was nothing for Hefeng to fall. But the bird eggs on the top of the peak that were about to hatch were now shattered. Only this point was unacceptable to it. It roared in despair. The despair was so deep and so heavy. It was an intelligent creature. Its wisdom was not low. But at this time, its emotions were no longer under its control. Anger was like a stick, turning its calmness into a paste. So, it revealed a flaw. It actually shifted its attention away from the 3 god general class mechs. Not 1, not 2, 3. When Dang Hu lost his mind and lost control of his emotions, Xing and the other 2 seized the opportunity. They all burst out. The King Jiuying emitted a green light, and the black patterns on the mechs glowed with a blazing white light. The long sword drew. The void vibrated, and the strands of green light were pulled together and condensed by some invisible force, turning into a green dragon with bared fangs and claws, and suddenly pounced on Dang Hu. The ultimate skill, dragon fighting in the wild. In a blink of an eye, the green dragon had pounced on Dang Hu and was wandering around the overlord beast. Every time it passed by, the beard on Dang Hu's body evaporated into green smoke. The green dragon wandered for a while, and green smoke curled up on Dang Hu's body. I don't know how much of his beard was evaporated by the green dragon. When Feng King Jiuying took action, Jiuying Yunran was not idle either. With its crown broken, and its silver armor shattered, Starpika no longer had the cold and elegant temperament it had before. Even so, the mecha still pointed to the sky with one hand. The bright starlight suddenly lit up, and a series of gorgeous rivers of light rose from the ground. They entangled in the air, and turned into a Milky Way in an instant. As Starpika pushed with both hands, the Milky Way fell from the sky and surged towards Dang Hu, and then the overlord beast entangled by the azure dragon was swept into a galaxy. Thousands of stars suddenly brightened and dimmed, and the flickering light burned through the dim light around. The ultimate skill, the Milky Way shines. Dang Hu was unable to control himself under the impact of the galaxy, and his body kept falling, breaking, and evaporating. The azure dragon on his body not only did not leave, but took the opportunity to extend its claws and hold Dang Hu, spewing blue sky fire from its mouth, burning large clumps of beard into blue smoke. At this moment, Jiuying moved. Under Xing's control, this mecha actually flew over the galaxy, walking on the waves. Jiuying's movement seemed slow, and Dang Hu could see clearly every time he landed, and every time he lifted his foot. But, Jiuying appeared behind the giant beast, and stepped on the end of the galaxy. Dang Hu was still unaware. Jiuying landed behind Dang Hu, and the long sword drew a circle, leaving clear sword shadows in the air. Then, the sword began to return to the sheath. Dang. The clear sound of returning to the sheath was like a death knell for Dang Hu. The figure of the giant beast suddenly swelled up like a black balloon. Then, a little light lit up from Dang Hu's beard-tangled body. Then the second and third points. In a blink of an eye, the sky was full of sword light. The sword light crisscrossed like lightning. Dang Hu's figure was wiped out in these dazzling sword lights. The unique skill, Leakpally. **** crumble. Thunder roared. Bayern turned around and looked at one side of the forbidden area. It was unclear whether it was sword light or electric fire that was dissipating there. Then, behind the gloomy clouds in the sky, a dazzling ray of sunlight broke through the clouds and shone down. It fell on Bayern's body. The shining Bayern, who was holding a shield and a sword, looked like a god. Embroidered tiger, 8 gates, and other mechas approached Bayern. More sunlight shone down from between the clouds. The super anti-membrane covering the entire forbidden area dissipated little by little. The terrifying storm in the sky gradually calmed down. The giant beasts in the forbidden area that had not yet died either ran out of the forbidden area or flew away. The weird hair that spread everywhere and almost covered the entire forbidden area was also fading rapidly. From black to grey, and then blown by the wind, it turned into wisps of light smoke and slowly dissipated in the air. The forbidden area has become quieter than ever before. There was no more strange smell in the wind. Under the sun, Luo Yan and others walked out of the cab, took off their helmets, and stared at the sky in a daze. After a while, someone said, "Dang Hu is dead." Then the people who survived in the forbidden area cheered. "Dang Hu is dead. Dang Hu is dead." After the Misty Canyon, humans destroyed the second forbidden area, Gifa City. It was night. The surface base, The base was brightly lit, and people were singing or playing string music everywhere. Not only were the main roads crowded with people, but even in some alleys, people were arm in arm and toasting. In a bar, Yan Wenbo slapped the bar and said to the bartender behind him, "Give us a few strong drinks." He pointed at Bei again. "Give her a glass of juice. Remember, don't add any alcohol. Don't add any, unless you want her to tear down the bar." Bei pouted, but he was in the wrong and couldn't refute, so he had to vent his anger on the juice. As soon as he picked up the cup, he sucked on the straw and drank almost all the juice in one breath. "Come on, let's toast to Luo Yan. I've heard that Captain Xing and his men were able to seize the opportunity to join forces and kill because Xing Feng collapsed and Dang Hu was distracted. Now the base has said that Luo Yan should be credited with a great merit. Without him, we don't know how long this battle would have lasted. We don't know how many people will not be able to come back." A man with a rough face raised his glass and shouted, "What do you think? Should we drink this glass of wine?" Chapter 799 Embracing the Future. Under the urging of the crowd, Luo Yan drank a glass of wine without changing his expression. "Okay, then I'll drink it too." The rough-looking man laughed and drank his glass clean. Then the others toasted and dispersed. Luo Yan thought he could relax, but Heo brought a box of beer over. With a bang, he put it in front of Luo Yan. "Drink." Heo raised his chin, his eyes full of provocation. The people in the bar were watching the fun and were not afraid of trouble. They gathered around and kept making trouble. "Luo Yan, drink with him. Don't be afraid. When you get drunk, your brother will protect you and won't let women take advantage of you. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business." Several women who were watching spoke up. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out. Luo Yan looked at Heo, stared for a moment, and decisively picked up a bottle of beer. With a flick of his thumb, the bottle cap flew out, and then he raised his head and drank. Gulp gurgle. The liquid in the bottle dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Sure, Zio Luo, you can drink the whole bottle. You're a real man." "Heo, why don't you show off too?" The onlookers were laughing, and some even got addicted to alcohol and started drinking from their own glasses. Heo frowned, picked up a bottle from the box, twisted it with his hand, and unscrewed the cap. He also raised his head and drank. At this moment, Luo Yan had finished one bottle, then drank the second one, and glanced at the beer in the box, then looked at Heo. His eyes were provocative. Soon, most of the beer in the box was drunk, and the empty bottles were piled on both sides. Luo Yan and Heo were still drinking. After the giant disaster, when struggling to survive on the surface, Luo Yan had touched beer a lot. When the red poison attacked, there were no painkillers on hand, so Luo Yan could only numb himself with alcohol. At the beginning, he would get drunk after drinking 1 or 2 glasses. Later, his alcohol tolerance became better and better, but it was a pity that Luo Yan did not want to drink 1,000 glasses without getting drunk, because that means that once there are no painkillers, he can only rely on his own will to hold on. Fortunately, he held on. Fortunately, he met Xing. Since entering the dungeon and starting to practice, Luo Yan has rarely touched alcohol. First, he has no time, and second, there is no need. But tonight, he drank, and drank very happily. Just like Bei said last time, he used to practice very hard. It was like an invisible knife against his waist, and he refused to waste every moment. Every day, he was fighting with the god of death for his life. On such days, even if Luo Yan has tried his best to adjust his emotions, his nerves are still tense, and his mood is naturally not comfortable. But as the red poison is discharged, such days are gone forever. In the future, Luo Yan will not relax or slack off. But compared with the past, the meaning is completely different. In the past, he practiced hard to save his life before the red poison attacked his heart. In the future, he will practice hard to embrace a brighter future and realize his dreams. 2 states of mind. Completely different. A moment later, Heo sprayed a rainbow from his mouth. He covered his mouth, pushed through the crowd, threw himself into the corner, and vomited. Luo Yan then put down the bottle, burped, and thought to himself that it was a close call. He didn't drink. It's just that his stomach couldn't hold it. Okay, Luo Yan, I didn't know you could drink so much. Next time you come to Changping, I'll treat you to a drink. Next time you can't force him to drink beer, you have to drink Beishao. Let's go, sisters. It's boring. Xiao Luo drank so much and didn't get drunk. Wow, you don't really want to take advantage of him. The voices were boiling, the lights and shadows were intertwined, and Luo Yan, who was not drunk by the beer, was slightly drunk at the moment. A faint smile escaped from the corner of his mouth. Such a day, such a person. He likes it very much. Tonight, the base is reveling from top to bottom. People will drink all night, and some may sleep in the alley with bottles of wine. Fortunately, the weather is hot, so there is no need to worry about catching a cold or getting sick. In the command center, the commander walked in and looked around. There are only 5 or 6 people working here now. You guys can go, have a drink too. I'll be alright here. The commander smiled. A man with a sharp look in his eyes stood up and said, "It doesn't matter if it's just one night. We can drink anytime." A beautiful woman also said, "Commander, what about you? Why don't you go have a drink?" The commander shook his head and smiled. "I haven't drunk for a long time. Besides, Captain Zheng and the other 2 have taken medicine and need to rest. How can I not watch over them?" The man with a sharp look in his eyes sighed. "To drive a god level machine, you need to take calming drugs regularly. It is even more necessary to take them after a war, so as to avoid cognitive confusion after synesthesia with a god level machine. Even so, there is a time limit for driving a god level machine. How long will Captain Zheng and the others be able to drive the mecha?" The commander nodded solemnly. "Yes. We humans are so fragile. Even if we find a way to fight the behemoth, there will be restrictions of one kind or another. Like you said, there is a time limit for driving a god level machine. Although you can extend the driving period through practice and by improving your realm. But it is not that easy to improve your realm. Especially for the Tangso and realm masters like Captain Zheng. It's not easy to find the next realm that's suitable for them to practice. And it's different from the realms below the Tangsoan realm. After the Tangsoan realm, there will be certain risks in realm breakthroughs. There's nothing we can do about it. All the techniques we are practicing now have been streamlined and modified. It's an incomplete technique, and there will always be hidden dangers of one kind or another. But even so, humans have never stopped moving forward for a moment. Because we know very well what the consequences of stopping moving forward are. The consequence of stopping moving forward is, of course, being destroyed by the giant beast. For a moment, the atmosphere in the command center was a little solemn. Perhaps to liven up the atmosphere, the beautiful woman said before. "But, you see, the battle in the forbidden area this time was easier than the Misty Canyon. I heard that Captain Zheng stayed in bed for a long time after that battle, and his injuries this time were minor. From this point of view, we will be able to destroy more forbidden areas faster in the future." The commander shook his head. "Don't underestimate the Overlord Beast. The reason why Captain Zheng was seriously injured in the battle in the Misty Canyon. It's because that Overlord Beast was evolving into a nightmare beast, and its strength is stronger than that of ordinary Overlord Beasts. In addition, Captain Zheng was alone at the time, so you can imagine how difficult that battle was. As for Githa City, Dang whose combat power is not among the top 10 among the known Overlord Beasts. In addition, its offspring has just been born, and its vitality has been damaged. Finally, this time it was so easy, because the 3 captains joined forces. Otherwise it wouldn't be that simple. And like this time, multiple captains joined forces, because the Yambu space has not been so active recently. Otherwise, the Yambu space is frequently opened, and each underground city needs at least one god general level machine to be in charge. How can they spare time to participate in such operations? Seeing that the eyes of several people in the command center were heavy again, the commander smiled and said, "But soon, this situation should change. Don't forget that each Mecha Academy sends talents to the underground city in the strategic palace every year. In the next few classes, as far as I know, there will be some good seedlings joining. There are 2 in our base right now. These young people will be the future of our human race." Chapter 800 and current. While the people in the base were reveling till dawn, not far from the base, in a surface camp, Jiuying pushed open a door and just walked in. he saw a man lying on the ground. This man was foaming at the mouth. His face was pale, he had no clothes on, and his chest was no longer rising and falling. It seemed that he died of impotence. Bad luck. The old man said softly. What are you talking about, old man? A soft and charming voice sounded, and the sound made Jiuying's body soften, and his heart seemed to be gently scratched by something. It was itchy, but he couldn't scratch it, which was extremely uncomfortable. Jiuying cursed which in his heart, but his face was full of smiles. Nothing was said. Haven't the others come yet? At the same time, he looked at a woman who came out of the room. Liu man. Liu man came out barefoot in a red gauze long skirt. The neckline of the skirt was low and wide, revealing a large area of spring light. A pair of white long legs were looming in the gauze skirt, occasionally appearing from the slit of the skirt, and then a touch of white light, like a startled wild goose, was reflected in Jiuying's eyes. The old man's mouth was dry. He glanced at the half-open wooden door. In the room behind the door, on the ground next to the big bed, there was also a man lying, but this man had a knife stuck in his back. A white finger stretched out to Jiuying's chin, touching the old man's beard. Mr. Jiuying, what are you looking at? Are you tired? Otherwise, I'll accompany you to lie on the bed for a while. Anyway, Jiuying and the others didn't arrive so early. Otherwise, let's play a game. A stunning face that brought disaster to the country and the people flashed in front of Jiuying's eyes. Liu man, wearing gauze, almost hung her whole body on the old man. Jiuying quickly stepped aside and said, business is important. Business is important. Besides, I'm old, and there are some things that I can't do. If you want to play games, go find Jiuying or Behemoths. What a joke. You women are full of poison. Whoever dares to touch you, don't come to harm me, an old man. Go harm others. Jiuying's heart was roaring, but his face was smiling. Liu man laughed, sat on the sofa next to him, raised her foot, and stepped on the corpse next to her. It's really boring here. None of these men are useful. Hurry up and do your business, so you can leave. At this time, the door opened, and Behemoths' giant figure squeezed in, making the living room look crowded. As soon as he saw the corpse on the ground, he burst out with a Chinese quintessence, then looked at Liu man and said, can't you eat it cleanly? Can you put the things away properly after playing with them? Who would be annoyed if you left them at the door? Liu man looked at her palm under the light, as if flowers had bloomed on it. What qualifications do you have to criticize me? I heard that, after we left that night, the bar closed the next day, because there are 2 corpses in the lounge. How should I put it? Even if they were gnawed by wild beasts, it's probably better than that. It's the same as playing with them. Look, at least I didn't break them. It's just playing to death. Jiuying got in behind Behemoths. The man with bandages on his face and hands looked at the corpse on the ground, squatted down, and carried the corpse into the bedroom. When he came out again, he closed the door and said, through my observations over the past few days, I think the target is a responsible person. Such a person is easy to use, as long as the game is well set up. Basically, he's a cooked duck, and can't run away. Liu man stuck out a piece of her tongue, and gently slid it across her lips. That kid looks pretty good. He's strong and young. He's 100 times stronger than these trash in the camp. Let me make a deal first. After I cripple him, let me play with him for 2 days. You can do whatever you want after that. Jiuying frowned and said, this is not good. What young Master Chen means is that it's best to capture him alive. If you can't capture him alive, kill him. You still have to play for 2 more days. There are too many variables. Behemoths grinned. Old man Jiuying, is Chen Guangli your father? Why are you so obedient? If you can cripple him, are you afraid that he will run away? Break his limbs, and I'll see what tricks he can come up with. Jiuying chuckled but didn't answer. He squinted his eyes, and in his turbid eyes, there was a flash of cold light like ice chips. You are all here. The yellow-faced Madang walked in, and said to Jiuying, I have done what you asked for. Liu man raised her eyebrows slightly. You too. You are not hiding anything from us. Are you doing something in private? Jiuying glanced at her. I have a plan that requires some arrangements. Madang happens to be good at this, so I asked him to do it. Now, please listen carefully. My plan is 2 days later. Guangling camp. Have all the contribution points been issued? Yan Wenbo came back from the base, walked into the barracks, and raised his mobile phone. Also, the exchange window is open. You can go and exchange what you want. But you have to make an appointment first, because there are too many people. As for me, I have already made an appointment, and the number is for this afternoon, haha. Du Changson muttered, what are you happy about? What difference does it make if you make an appointment later? Is there any discount if you make an appointment first? Yan Wenbo pulled over a chair and sat down. There is no discount if you make an appointment first, but the sooner you exchange, the sooner you can enjoy it. Luo Yan and Bei took out their respective mobile phones and logged into the base's online reservation. After the appointment was made, Bei asked, Captain, what are you going to exchange? Of course, the underground city work points. I've calculated it. Even if I don't exchange all of them, I can exchange half of them. Captain, I can enjoy my old age after retirement. Yan Wenbo said excitedly. Du Changson sneered, old age. You are not even 40 yet, and you have the nerve to say you are old. People in their 30s are thinking about retiring. Can you have some ambitions? Yan Wenbo laughed dryly, who said I don't have ambitions. My ambition is to retire early and enjoy life early. Changson, you are a dull person who won't understand. Life is not about fighting and killing. Life should be about hugging a beautiful woman, drinking good wine, and watching the sunrise and sunset. By the way, it would be best to change a beautiful woman every once in a while. That's life. Du Changson couldn't talk to him, so he left the barracks with a spear, after saying I'm going to practice shooting. Bei also didn't resonate with Yan Wenbo's ambition. She turned her head to look at Luo Yan. Luo Yan, what do you want to do after graduation? Luo Yan raised his head, thought for a moment and said, join the Guangling Corps. Yan Wenbo was stunned for a moment, then said, you are just like me, you don't have any ambitions. I thought you would say that you want to join the Xiangang Dragon Riders. Luo Yan said indifferently, it was Captain D who brought me back from the surface, and it was Guangling's Mecha Academy that made me successful. My mother said that people should not forget their roots. So, I hope to give back to Guangling. Chapter 801 King Mulin Clan. In the afternoon, at the exchange office of the base, when Luo Yan and Bei came here, it seemed very lively. There were guards arranged by the base to maintain order at the entrance. Those who wanted to exchange items needed to show the number they had reserved during the day, register at the entrance, and then follow the arrangements to enter in an orderly manner. In order to avoid too many people staying in the exchange office, only 10 people were allowed to enter each time. After exchanging the items they needed, they were not allowed to stay in the exchange office and had to leave from another exit as soon as possible. Outside the gate, those who had not yet lined up needed to wait on the side. There were many sheds and seats built here, and drinking water was provided so that those who had not been called could rest here. After Luo Yan and Bei registered their numbers, they came to the shed to rest because it was not their turn yet. Luo Yan. A hearty voice came. Luo Yan looked over and saw Ma Shuo from Changping City. He looked in good condition and was waving to Luo Yan. Next to him, Meng Fanxi just nodded coldly and started browsing his phone. Luo Yan and Bei walked over and sat down next to them. Is Sister Xiaorong okay? Bei Zeduo looked around but didn't see Xiaorong, so he asked. You're thoughtful. Ma Shuo nodded. Xiaorong has recovered well. She wanted to come, but I didn't let her. She still needs to rest. In fact, we plan to return to the underground city after exchanging the things. Meng Fanxi whispered beside him. We don't earn much contribution points, and there's actually nothing to exchange. At most, we can exchange for some yuan nourishing agents. We can just ask someone to exchange for those things. Ma Shuo reached out and pressed Meng Fanxi's head. You're the only one who talks too much. Go play. Meng Fanxi knocked Ma Shuo's hand away. I'm not a child anymore. Don't always talk to me in that tone. Ma Shuo grinned and finally swallowed what he was about to say and then said, you should have gotten a lot of contribution points. Luo Yan said calmly, not bad. Enough for me to exchange for what I want. Ma Shuo nodded. That's good. I originally wanted to exchange for a unique skill, but now it seems that I can only wait until next time. Unique skill. It is almost the first choice of exchange item for the Mecha division participating in the Operation Commission this time. The skills below the Tangsuan realm can be obtained in the core, and the authority in this regard has long been delegated by the Strategic Office. As for the cultivation materials, secret methods, combat skills, weapons, and equipment, etc., they are not urgently needed. On the contrary, although the unique learning can be exchanged in the core, the types of unique learning mastered by the core are limited. It is not necessarily possible to exchange for the one that suits you. The most obvious example is Yan Wenbo. Although he exchanged for a unique learning, he obviously did not like the drill like unique learning of the world is broken. The Strategic Office is different. So far, there are many kinds of unique learning discovered and cracked from Gixu, and basically you can find one or two that suit you. In addition to unique learning, secret methods are also one of the hottest items for exchange. Unique learning is used to determine the outcome of a battle, and secret methods greatly improve one's combat power. Both of these things can make the strength of the Mecha division advance by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. After meeting these two items, next, the Mecha Master will consider higher level skills, training materials, weapons, and equipment, and even upgrades to his Mecha. After all, these things have a long payback period compared to the first two. Especially the Mecha upgrade. That requires a large investment, and not everyone can afford it. At this time, there was some commotion at the gate. A big man and the staff at the registration office were arguing about something. Luo Yan focused a little, and heard the big man who was still wearing a black suit on a hot day shouting. Who is our young master Ling Han? That is the eldest son and grandson of the Ling family. Why don't you ask about what kind of existence the Qingmu City Ling family is? Our young master Ling is now rushing back to the city. If you allow us to exchange first, it will only benefit you, not harm you. Qingmu City Ling family? A bright and generous female face flashed in Luo Yan's mind. That was the woman who invited him to transfer to Angshan College at the Yeshu College dinner when he participated in the big sports meeting. Hannah. She was from Qingmu City. However, he had never heard of Qingmu Ling family. Luo Yan thought about it and laughed. Isn't this normal? The world is so big, and he is just a little student in Guangling. How can he know so many big people? Hey, is there anyone from the Ling family in Qingmu City coming to participate in this war? Ma Shuo asked beside him. He also heard the words of the big man in a suit. At this time, a modified car was parked in the open space near the exchange office. The car door opened, and a young man got out of it. He was handsome and calm. He said something to a woman in black who came to him. The cold-looking woman in black walked over. Without saying a word, she slapped the big man in the suit in the face. The big man was slapped away by a slender woman. His face was swollen, and several teeth fell out. There was silence at the scene. Then, the handsome man walked to the registration office and smiled. I'm Ling Han. Sorry, the people below are ignorant. You didn't tell me to do this. It's Ling's fault for not disciplining him. Excuse me. After apologizing, he took out his mobile phone, reported a number, and after registering, he walked into the shed alone. It's really the Aoki Ling family. Ma Shuo chuckled and said, they are both young masters, but this one with the surname Ling is much more pleasing to the eye than the one with the surname Chen. Luo Yan knew he was referring to Qin Guangli. He nodded slightly to show his agreement. Ling Han did not pretend, and he only showed up from the time he participated in the Operation Commission to now, which shows that he is a low-key person. However, Luo Yan looked at the man in a suit, who was taken away. How could a low-key master raise a high-profile subordinate? Either he was acting, or this subordinate was new, and didn't know the master's personality. At this time, Ling Han walked over, smiling warmly, and stretched out his hand to Luo Yan. Classmate Luo Yan, nice to meet you. I heard Hannah mention you when we were in Qingmu City. She still regrets not getting you to Angshan College. Now, she may have another regret. She regrets not coming to participate in this Operation Commission and not seeing the outstanding performance of classmate Luo Yan. As the saying goes, you should not hit a smiling person. Ling Han had no grudge against Luo Yan the day before, and no grudge today. He spoke appropriately, and he was also Hannah's friend. Whether out of politeness or other considerations, Luo Yan could only shake hands with him and exchange a few words. He probably saw that Luo Yan didn't like socializing, so he said a few words and left with an excuse without entanglement. Just before leaving, he rolled his eyes. Chapter 802 Encounter on the Road. Bei sat on the chair next to him, scrolling through his phone and swinging his legs. Suddenly, he felt a chill. A few strange things were about to appear out of control. Bei jumped up from the chair and covered her eyes with a mask. But at this time, the strangeness calmed down again. It was as if it was just her illusion. What's wrong? Seeing that the hair on Bei's neck stood up, like a cat with its hair standing on end, Luo Yan asked hurriedly. Bei raised his head and shook his head blankly. At this time, several numbers were displayed on the other side of the gate. It was Luo Yan's turn to exchange. So Luo Yan took Bei to the gate. In the pergola, Ling Han glanced at Bei's back, and a faint smile appeared on his face. When he walked into the exchange office, he realized that this was a hall with 20 exchange windows set up temporarily in the hall. On each window, the appointment number was displayed. Take the appointment number to the corresponding window to go through the exchange. It is a bit like the service window of the bank in the past. The exchange windows of Luo Yan and Bei were far apart, so they separated and went their own way. Arriving at an exchange window, Luo Yan sat down and showed his reservation code. Inside the window was a red-haired woman with a beautiful face and a dignified posture. She was wearing the administrative uniform of the base, and her legs were tightly closed with black stockings on the front of her narrow skirt. Seeing Luo Yan sitting down, she smiled. Good afternoon, classmate Luo Yan. Luo Yan was stunned for a moment, thinking how come everyone seemed to know him. As if seeing through his thoughts, the woman behind the window chuckled. You are a celebrity now. At least in the base. First you took on the bombardment of TSUI alone, and then proposed to overthrow Blackpeak. Your performance is remarkable, especially the time with TSUI. It can be said that everyone in the base owes you a life, including my sister. The woman blinked and then said, let's get back to the point. What do you want to exchange? The record of heavenly fire. Luo Yan got straight to the point. The woman nodded and typed on the keyboard. Well, you have more than enough contribution points. You have also met the additional exchange conditions for Heavenly Fire record. No problem. But I can't give it to you right away. I need to register here first, and then wait for the giant beast strategic mansion to count the exchange items for the skills, and finally distribute them at a unified time. But at the latest, the relevant information will be encrypted and sent to your private mailbox within a month. When the time comes, just remember to receive it. Papa. The woman quickly typed on the keyboard, registered the exchange items, and then asked, do you need anything else? Luo Yan thought about it and exchanged another batch of cultivation materials. After registering, the woman reminded him, the Heavenly Fire record is a Tangsuan realm cultivation method. Luo Yan, when you break through and advance, you will have to exchange for a bottle of God protecting agent at the end, and 2 bottles of essence consolidating agent. They can protect your body and mind and consolidate your energy when you advance and advance. Let your breakthrough be as smooth as possible. You can exchange now, or you can apply to the strategic office through your army group when you are about to break through. Luo Yan calculated that he had already cultivated the Yanayang Sutra to the 3rd level, and it would take some time to break through the 4th level. The Huaxu Sutra was a little faster, and now it was the 4th level, but even if he cultivated it to the 5th level right away, Luo Yan still wanted to complete it before advancing. In summary, it would take at least next year to advance to the Tangsuan realm. He was not in a hurry to exchange now. So he thanked the woman for the reminder and said he would exchange it when needed. The woman nodded and smiled. Anything else? Luo Yan shook his head. He was about to get up and leave. The woman leaned forward and whispered, but I have something to say to you. Student Luo Yan, I'm free after 8 PM. Would you like to have a drink together? Luo Yan's face changed and he said goodbye. The next day, in Guanglin camp, a number of mecha carriers were leaving the camp. The operation commission had ended, the contribution points had been issued, and they were open for exchange yesterday. Even if you didn't get what you wanted for the time being, it had been registered by a special person, and would be issued to the corresponding dungeon later. Therefore, the teams from various dungeons had no reason to stay here. And because of the disappearance of Giffer City, without the forbidden area, this surface base might disappear soon. Or it might become an ordinary survivor camp. In short, the teams that came to participate in the operation commission today left one after another. Are you not going with us? In the barracks, Yan Wenbo, who was packing his things, looked up at Luo Yan. Luo Yan planned to take a walk around the coyote camp, so he found an excuse to separate from the team. After listening, Yan Wenbo nodded. Okay, then you should be careful on your own. Give me a call after you return to the underground city. Luo Yan nodded. Then he said goodbye to Bei. Then he left the camp alone. Wilderness. The roar of the motorcycle engine echoed in the air. Luo Yan drove a motorcycle and drove towards the coyote camp. A group of wild deer grazing in front heard the sound of the engine, raised their heads, and then whistled and scattered. Luo Yan drove out from the herd of deer, and in his goggles, there was bright sunshine. The sunshine made his mood bright, but this brightness did not last long, and he saw an off-road vehicle parked in front. The car seemed to have broken down. The two men checked the engine for a while, and then got under the car. Luo Yan originally wanted to pass by nearby, but when he glanced at the off-road vehicle casually, he changed his mind. There was a cage on the off-road vehicle. There were 3 children in the cage. Luo Yan immediately understood what the two men did. Killing intent suddenly surged in the red eyes. The motorcycle turned around and roared towards the two men. The two men looked up, then dropped their tools and fled. When Luo Yan came to the side of the off-road vehicle, the two men had already entered a forest not far away. Luo Yan did not chase them. He stopped and jumped onto the off-road vehicle. There were 3 children in the car. The 2 boys were only 4 or 5 years old. Their clothes were dirty, and they huddled together in fear. The other one was a 9-year-old girl. She stood in front of the 2 little boys, waving a branch and shouting, "Don't come over. I'm not that easy to bully." Obviously, she was protecting the 2 little boys. Luo Yan took off his goggles and pulled down the windproof mask. "I can see. You are very strong. I'm no match for you. It seems that I can only surrender. The surrenderer must do something for the winner. Or, let me take you home, okay?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 803 Seed. Luo Yan was packing up the off-road vehicle. The 2 thieves left behind a full set of tools. Otherwise, even if Luo Yan knew how to pack up, he could only stare blankly. "Give me a wrench." Luo Yan shouted from under the car. The little girl handed over a wrench obediently. Her name is Zairanan. She is a resident of a survivor camp not far from here. Little Anan is very smart and speaks in an orderly manner. Luo Yan chatted with her while repairing the off-road vehicle and roughly understood that they were captured this morning. The other 2 boys called her sister, but they are not biological siblings, but they are of similar age and often play together in the camp. Zairanan is very strong, requiring the 2 little guys to call her sister, and often orders the 2 little guys to do this and that. At the same time, Zairanan also fulfilled her responsibilities as a sister. Just like just now, she was still a child herself, but she waved a branch to drive Luo Yan away. Luo Yan admired her courage. For a little girl, this is rare. Okay. After crawling out from under the car, Luo Yan wiped the oil stains on his face, fixed the motorcycle on the super wild car, and got into the driver's seat. "Let's go. I'll take you home." On the way, "Sister Anan, didn't you say there are a lot of delicious food outside? They are all things you can't eat in the camp. But it's not much better outside than our camp. You won't lie to us, will you?" A child with a round belly but small hands and feet said weakly. Zairanan gently pinched the child's face and said, "Son Xiaopang, how far have we walked?" This world is big. If you don't believe me, ask this brother. Brother, don't you think so? There are a lot of delicious food outside, right? I remember that before the natural disaster, my father would take me to eat delicious food every Sunday. Ice cream, cake, fried chicken, chocolate. At that time, I was looking forward to Sunday coming soon every day. At that time, I would always think it would be great if I didn't have to study. As she spoke, the little girl's eyes dimmed. Now we don't have to go to kindergarten anymore. But we can't eat those delicious foods anymore. The two little boys at the back looked at each other. Sister Annan, is ice cream the icy, sweet and delicious thing as described in the legend? Zaya Annan looked at the two boys sadly. Then she tried to force a smile. Yes, when I grow up and can leave the camp, I'll find delicious food for you and bring it all back. Ice cream, cake, whatever you want to eat. Wow. The two boys drooled when they heard it. Sister Annan, is that true? You're not lying to us, are you? Another dark-skinned, chubby-looking little boy looked at Zaya Annan with a questioning look. Boom. Zaya Annan hit him on the head. Wang Xiaohu, you dare to doubt me? I'm your sister. I keep my word. Wang Xiaohu covered his head. It hurts. Sister Annan, don't we trust you? Don't hit my head anymore. Mom said that you can't hit your head. It will make you stupid if you hit it too much. The little guys chatted, and the topic began to turn to things like Sun Xiaopang wetting the bed last night. Luo Yan smiled, but the smile disappeared quickly. There are so many children like Zaya Annan on the surface. Big children like Zaya Annan at least know what the world was like before the natural disaster. In her heart, at least there is a beautiful seed buried. This seed will inspire her and become her motivation to explore the outside world. But for children like Sun Xiaopang and Wang Xiaohu, the world has been like this since they were sensible. How sad it is. The hand holding the steering wheel tightened unconsciously. In the red eyes, I don't know if it is the sun or the flame that is jumping. The desire to drive the beast off the surface of the earth became intense again in Luo Yan's heart. At noon, Luo Yan saw a camp. The original site of the camp was a village before the natural disaster. Although it was a rural village, it was planned. The roads were wide and flat, and the houses were all 3-story courtyards. There were shops and supermarkets in the village, and it looked very prosperous. But now, 9 out of 10 houses were empty, and weeds and wildflowers had invaded the main road. In many abandoned courtyards, weeds grew as tall as a person. It was clearly daytime, but it was dead. Zaya Annan stood up and pointed the way. Now everyone lives in the area of the activity center in the village. There used to be a basement there for storing sundries. In the past few years, my father and his family have expanded it. Now every night, we spend the night underground. This year, every household has its own house. Although it is underground, it is much better than before. I remember that at the beginning, the uncles and aunts had to squeeze into the basement. When there were the most people, there was no place to step. Luo Yan drove the off-road vehicle towards the activity center while listening to Zaya Annan's story. Suddenly, he had an idea. He stepped on the brakes. At this time, figures rushed out from the small courtyards on both sides. They were all men in their early 40s, some holding iron bars and some holding hose. Only 2 of them had guns, but they were both 54 pistols. Even before the natural disaster, this type of pistol was almost eliminated. But in this camp, they are authority. It is the truth. Don't move. The 2 men with guns pointed their guns at Luo Yan in a standard posture. If Luo Yan wanted, in less than a second, these 2 men would be beheaded. But Luo Yan did not move, and even raised his hand to show weakness, because he knew that these people should be residents of the camp. In addition, the muzzles of the 2 men's guns were not pointed at his fatal parts, but at his arms. This was a subconscious action. From this point, it is not difficult to see that before the natural disaster, they should be law enforcers. Dad, Zaya Annan shouted to one of the men with guns. Brother Luo is not a bad person. He saved me. Xiaopang and Xiaohu. Xiaohu? Where is my Xiaohu? A woman squeezed through the crowd, tears in her eyes. Mom. Wang Xiaohu immediately jumped out of the car, rushed to the woman, and hugged her. The 2 men with guns exchanged glances, and then put down their guns. Zairanen's father stretched out his hand and forced a smile. Sorry, I thought you were a human trafficker. Since the new year, several children have been lost in our camp. Anan and the others are missing today. Everyone is very worried and is discussing looking for them outside the camp. I didn't expect you to send them back. Sir, please stay for a meal. Zairanen also said, yes, brother Luo. Just stay for one night. Luo Yan nodded, not for the meal. He was worried that the human traffickers would come to retaliate against the camp at night. So he decided to stay. Chapter 804 Home. Brother Luo Yan, please come this way. Zaiji, Zairanen's father, warmly greeted Luo Yan and walked down a staircase. Down the stairs, there was a hall converted from a storage room. The hall was not dark, and beams of sunlight shone down. It was Zaiji and others who opened a skylight on the ground and used glass collected from the village's windows so that the underground space was not dark during the day and there was no need to worry about water entering on rainy days. They also installed a ventilation duct by themselves through the air inlet on the ground so that fresh air could be injected into the ground to avoid stuffiness. These seemingly simple arrangements, Luo Yang knew, were not simple at all. After the natural disaster, a surface survivor camp like this basically had no electricity supply. In addition, there was a lack of tools. To achieve these arrangements at the moment, you should know how much hard work Zaiji and others had put in. From Zaiji's introduction, Luo Yang knew that this village called Zeman Village once had a permanent population of 2,000. But now, all the people added up to less than 100. Only 78 people. Before the Falcon base was destroyed, because Zeman Village was close to the base, the men in the village would take turns to go to the base to make a living. In exchange for living supplies, the elderly and children here could survive. It can be seen that the living conditions of the residents of Zeman Village are very difficult. Even so, they still have hope. At this moment, in the hall, an old man in his early 60s, wearing simple clothes, is teaching a few children to read. That's teacher Liu. He is a retired teacher and one of the survivors of the natural disaster. For the past 3 years, he has been teaching the children's enlightenment education. He said that, no matter how many natural disasters and man-made disasters there are, they cannot stop the children from going to school. Seeing Luo Yan looking at the reading corner in the hall, Zaiji introduced it enthusiastically and pushed his daughter, Go, Anan. Take Zairohu and Xiaopang to study. Okay. Zairanen grabbed the hands of the two little boys and jumped to the reading corner. Zaiji led Luo Yan to continue the tour. Coming out of the hall, there is a passageway. On both sides of the passageway, there are caves dug. Because there are no tools, these caves are naturally large and small, and not uniform. There is no decoration inside, only various furniture collected from the village. These caves are the homes of the survivors of Zeman Village. After the natural disaster, at first, everyone just squeezed into the hall we just came in. Later, we opened up the current corridor and these caves little by little. Although they are simple, at least everyone has a home again. When talking about home, Zaiji looked happy. It seems that for this man, as long as the home is still there is still hope in life. Brother Luo Yan, this is my home. Please come in. Zaiji led Luo Yan into a cave. Walking into Zaiji's home, Luo Yan found that this cave was larger than the others, and it even had 2 small rooms. The one at the entrance served as the living room, and the other 2 were bedrooms. This is my bedroom, and this is Anan's. Zaiji introduced. Luo Yan took a look at each. The 2 bedrooms were not big. There was a bed right at the entrance, with almost no room to move. However, there was a small skylight above the room. In this way, when lying on the bed, at least one could see the world outside. In addition, on the uneven wall of Zaiji's room was a large map with circles, drawn on it with a red oil pen. Zaiji stood at the door and smiled. When I go to work at the base, I will ask people who come and go to the base. Collect some intelligence to find out where is safe, and where there are other camps. One day, I will take Anan away from here. Although it is difficult, I still want to try my best to give her a better life. At this point, Zaiji said excitedly, I heard from some adventurers that in some places, huge underground cities are being built. There are mechs protecting them. In those cities, you can live like before the disaster. I have contacted several capable people. As long as I save enough money, I can ask them to send Anan and me in. After arriving at the underground city, I hope to send Anan to school. Of course I don't think that teacher Liuguo is bad. In fact, I'm very grateful to him. But I hope to give Anan a better education. She shouldn't live in a place like this all her life. Looking at the light in the father's eyes, Luo Yan nodded. Anan is a smart child. Seeing Luo Yan praising his daughter, Xiaoji was even happier. It was soon evening. In the evening, Xiaoji and several men walked around the activity center and returned to the underground after confirming that there was no danger. They closed a large iron door in the hall. This iron door was installed later. It took Xiaoji and others a lot of effort to dismantle it and transport it to the underground hall. Every night, they would close the door and block the exit. Then it was dinner time. The women were responsible for dinner. They cooked in a corner of the hall, where there was a chimney leading to the ground. The exhaust fan was powered by manpower, and was simply modified with fans and bicycles. Some older children would take turns stepping on the exhaust fan, to exhaust the various fumes produced by cooking. The survivors of Zeman village, from the elderly to the children, everyone had their own work to do, and they worked together to survive after the natural disaster. A moment later, a bowl was placed in front of Luo Yan. It was a bowl of porridge. Although Xiaoran had tried her best to give Luo Yan more, it seemed that there was still too much soup in this bowl of porridge. As for the others, there was not much rice in their bowls. Xiaoji apologized. Recently, the base said that there will be a large-scale military operation, and it will not be open to the public for the time being. We are out of work, so we can only eat the leftover food. There is not much food left now, so we can only save it. Look, we can't even take out something decent. I'm so sorry. Luo Yan shook his head, picked up the bowl, blew on it, and then drank a mouthful of rice juice. Then he opened his backpack and took out several rations of field rations. Anan, take it and share it with your friends. Luo Yan smiled. When Xiaoran saw the canned meat in it, her eyes lit up, and she swallowed involuntarily. But she didn't take it sensibly, but looked at her father. Xiaoji smiled and said, take it, but you can only take one can. Give the others to your brother. Xiaoran nodded, picked up one of the cans, ran to Wang Xiaohu and the other kids, and proudly shouted, look, this is the canned meat I told you about. Brother Luo gave it to me. Now you believe it, don't you? I tell you, this canned meat is delicious. You're in for a treat today. Chapter 805 Angry. Brother Luo Yan, this is for you. After dinner, Luo Yan came to Xia's house, and Xiaoran gave him a painting. It was a doodle. The painting was very simple. It showed a man holding a sword, driving away two bad guys. In a car next to it, 3 children were rejoicing. Among them, one child had 2 braids, and drew a bow with a red pen. Obviously, this was Xiaoran. Do you like it? Xiaoran asked expectantly. Luo Yan carefully folded the paper and put it in his pocket. I like it very much. Xiaoran smiled happily. Luo Yan then discovered that her bedroom was covered with various paintings. Anan likes painting very much. Luo Yan asked casually. Xiaoran nodded. She climbed onto the bed and showed one of them to Luo Yan. This is me, this is dad, and this is mom. She pointed to the doodle on the paper. On the paper, there were 2 adults and a child. The background was a 2-story house with a big tree planted next to it. The 3 little people in the painting all had small faces, and the family of 3 was happy. Luo Yan looked at Xiaoji in the living room. The painting showed a family of 3, but in reality, there were only Xiaoji and Xiaoran. Luo Yan could roughly guess where the hostess had gone without asking. Xiaoran stretched out her hand and stroked the woman on the paper. When the disaster struck, our house collapsed. It was just me and my mother at home at the time. My mother hugged me very tightly and told me that my father would definitely come to save us. Later, my father came and I was saved, but my mother never woke up again. Xiaoran put the painting against her chest and hugged herself. Dad said that my mother went to a very far place. She would look at me from the stars. So every night, I would look at the stars through the skylight. This way my mother can see Anan's face. Brother Luo, do you think my mother can see me? Xiaoran raised her head, her two big red eyes. Luo Yan rubbed her hair. You can definitely see it, and your mother must be very happy, because Inan is cute and beautiful. Xiaoran immediately showed a row of white teeth. She added, when I grow up, I will go everywhere and draw everything I see. Brother Luo, do you think this is a good idea? Luo Yan raised his lips slightly. Of course it's good. It's very good. Xiaoran smiled happily when she heard Luo Yan's affirmation. At this time, Xiaoji came over. Okay, it's getting late. Anan has to go to bed. Brother Luo also needs to rest. Xiaoran nodded and then said mysteriously, Brother Luo, I will give you a gift tomorrow. You must accept it. Luo Yan agreed and then followed Xiaoji away. Xiaoji took him to an uninhabited cave. There was a bed, quilt and so on inside, which was obviously just laid out. I'm sorry, Brother Luo Yan. This place is simple. You have to spend the night. Luo Yan put his backpack on the bed. I've lived in worse places than this. Xiaoji smiled and said goodbye. Luo Yan lay on the bed, with the dragon elephant placed beside the bed, but he did not fall asleep. Instead, he turned on the silver eyes of peeping and monitored the surface. He was worried that the traffickers would come to retaliate at night, but until 2 o'clock in the morning, there was no movement on the surface. It seemed that he was worrying too much. So Luo Yan closed the divine treasure, turned over, and gradually fell asleep. I don't know how long he slept. Suddenly, he felt that the dragon blood essence became active and seemed to be devouring something. Luo Yan woke up suddenly and found that several dragon scales appeared on his body by themselves, and wisps of amber light emanated from the gaps between these dragon scales. They were like tentacles and pythons, dancing slightly in the air, and it really looked like they were hunting and devouring something. In the red eyes, circles of silver light emerged. Luo Yan opened the silver eyes of peeping and saw a faint red light floating above the cave. The amber light gas emitted by the dragon blood essence was preying on these lights and then removing the dross and leaving the essence. Under Luo Yan's gaze, some information emerged from the light red light. Toxins. Extent, severe. Air concentration, high. Compared with the past, in addition to simple data, the silver eyes of peeping now also gave similar evaluation information. But seeing this information, Luo Yan's heart sank. He got up from the bed, looked out of the corridor, and looked at the entire underground space. The more he looked, the colder his heart became. The entire underground space was dark. Except for Luo Yan himself, there was no biological grey light. Luo Yan grabbed the dragon elephant placed beside the bed. He walked out of the cave and walked along the corridor towards the Xia family. When passing a cave, he saw the retired old teacher. Liu was leaning over a desk with a notebook spread out on it. His pen dropped at his feet. Luo Yan walked in and saw a blood stain that had stained the notebook red. In the notebook was Liu's lesson plan for tomorrow's class, and it noted which child needed to improve in what aspect of study. But the old man would never be able to use this lesson plan. He had long since stopped breathing. Luo Yan quietly withdrew. He passed through the corridor, passed through caves. He saw corpses one after another. Then he stopped. He saw Sun Xiaopang, the child he had rescued during the day. Sun Xiaopang was lying on the ground, and his mother was lying beside him. They were both no longer breathing. Luo Yan quickened his pace. In a blink of an eye, he arrived at Xia's house. He walked in and saw Xiaoji lying on his bed, bleeding from all his orifices, holding a notebook in his hand. It recorded the money he had saved, and also wrote how much he needed to enter the underground city. Luo Yan came to Xiaoran's room again. As expected, he saw a small corpse. There was a small table on Xiaoran's bed, where she could draw things. Now, the little girl's body was lying on the table. Blood was flowing from her eyes, and the blood in her ears and nose had turned dark red, almost black. On the table was a piece of letter paper. The letter paper was white, but Xiaoran drew flowers of various colors on it, and she tried her best to decorate the letter paper. And she wrote some crooked words on it. Brother Luo, thank you for saving me and Xiaopang. Anan has nothing to give you, so I'll give you a white rabbit candy. It's delicious, but I've always been reluctant to eat it because it's the last candy my mother gave me. Now I'm giving it to you. My mother said that no matter how bitter life is, eating candy will turn bitterness into sweetness, don't you think? It's hard for this child who is less than 10 years old to write so many words. And next to the letter, there was a white rabbit candy with a wrinkled outer packaging, and even a little flat. Luo Yan picked up the candy, unwrapped it, and put the candy, which looked a little melted, and might even be expired, into his mouth. He chewed it gently, and tasted it carefully, as if he was eating some delicious food. After a while, he swallowed the candy. Then he touched Xiran's head. Thank you, Anan, this is the most delicious candy I have ever eaten. Looking at this small slender helpless body, Luo Yan seemed to want to engrave her in his eyes, in his heart, and into his bones. Then he turned around. His red eyes seemed to be burning with flames. It was an uncontrollable, indescribable, violent, and mad anger. Chapter 806 Giving Weight to Life. On the ground, some conversations were transmitted in the radio waves. I did a lot of homework. In addition to the target's cultivation, I care more about his character and behavior. So I investigated some of his deeds. Just before he came to participate in the Operation Commission, in Guangling City, he single-handedly smashed a human trafficking organization, rescued many children. At the same time, in many events, he showed a sense of responsibility and justice. In response to these situations, I asked Ma Dong to find 2 gold diggers, gave them some money, and asked them to kidnap 3 children in the village camp, and told them to ignore everything and just run when they saw the target. The result was very smooth, just as I guessed, because of the fear that the human traffickers would come to retaliate at night. The target not only sent a few children back, but also stayed overnight. Zeman Village. On the rooftop of an abandoned building, Jiuying, who was covered in bandages, fell to the ground, with a sniper rifle in front of him, pointing in the direction of the activity center. He continued, and this gives us the opportunity to lay an ambush calmly. In the headset, the gentle voice of Red Scorpion Liu Man sounded. I use red poison as the raw material and mix it with many other toxins to make the highly toxic Daughter's Red Wine, which is colorless and odorless, and extremely toxic. Maybe by now, the target is dead. The voice of the old man Jiuying, he continued, it doesn't matter if he's not dead. As soon as he comes out, Baoxing and Ma Dong, the 2 of you who are good at close combat, entangle him. Liu Man and I will be in the outer circle to contain him. Jiuying sees the opportunity to give him a deep bullet. This kid can't get away tonight. The yellow-faced Ma Dong hid in the dark, gesturing with his long sword. This kid is considered to have given him enough face. A young man in his early 20s, let us serve him. What a face he has. As he was speaking, he suddenly heard Jiuying shouting in his ear, Ma Dong, your feet. At the same time, there was a vibration under Ma Dong's feet. The yellow-faced man's eyes suddenly widened, and his Yuanli appeared in an explosive manner. His figure suddenly became blurred in the Yuanli light. Ma Dong burst out at the fastest speed in his life, and tried to move himself to the left. Even though he tried so hard, he was still crossed by a golden rainbow light that broke out from the ground, and rushed straight into the sky. He successfully moved a few steps away, but one of his arms, and one of his legs remained in the original place. Because of inertia, Ma Dong fell to the ground, and the whole person rubbed against the ground, and slid several meters away. Only then did blood flow from his smooth cut wound. My hand. My foot. Ma Dong screamed, and the severe pain made him burst into tears. While he was screaming, Baoxing had already pounced on the place where the golden rainbow rose without a sound. With a roar, he punched down with both fists. Boom. The ground shook, and cracks appeared on the windows of the activity center. The ground where Ma Dong was just now collapsed, and a relatively intact concrete layer fell obliquely, forming a slope. Bao Xiang looked at the dark gap cautiously, stepped back a little, and shouted without looking back, Ma, can you still go up? Ma Dong yelled, I'm not going up. My hands and feet are broken. Kill him for me. The wind was howling. Jiuying He and Liu Man came nearby, spread out around the gap, and formed a circle with Bao Xiang. Jiuying stared at the gap in the distance nervously, and the crossers of the site were looking for something in the dust-raised underground. At this time, a voice sounded from the gap. Is this a trap? Are you instructed by Qin Guangli? Hearing these two sentences, Jiuying and his men felt a jolt in their hearts, not knowing how the news leaked out. Jiuying hurriedly said, "It doesn't matter, we have to kill him anyway. If you know, you know." The others nodded. In the gap, Luoyan's voice continued to sound. There was no ups and downs. It seemed to be telling something calmly. In order to deal with me, you poisoned everyone in the camp. A total of 78 people, including children and old people. They are so innocent. What did they do wrong? Because you want to deal with me. Do they deserve to die? Baoxian had the most violent temper. Hearing this, he roared, "Stop talking nonsense. Boy, since you already know it, come out and die. These trash can die. They are like ants. Does it make any difference if there is one more or one less?" Footsteps were heard in the gap, as if someone was starting to walk up. Ants? Yes. They are indeed very small in the eyes of many people. They are just a group of powerless little people. Sure enough, no matter what era, people without power will be slaughtered. But even so, they should not have died like this. The death is worthless. Among them, there are elderly people who are still willing to dedicate themselves and burn themselves, just willing to use their tiny firefly light to illuminate the way forward for those young children. There are also ordinary fathers who work every day just to save enough money to give their children a better life. There are children who want to grow up quickly, measure the world with their own feet, and describe the world with pen and paper. Even if they are ants, they have dreams and hopes in their hearts. But now, they died in the dark underground, and they don't even know why they died. So, someone must give them an explanation. Finally, a figure walked out from the slope. The midnight wind was howling. The black hair was flying in disarray. The red eyes were bright flames in the dark night. Those people whose bodies are as small as feathers, and whose lives are as wild as weeds. What I can do is to give you the weight of life. Your lives must be repaid by someone, instead of being scattered on the ground in a cheap way without anyone paying attention. Chen Guangli deserves death. Chen family who taught such a beast deserves death. The killer who took money to do things and set up a trap to poison the entire camp all deserve death. Boom. The golden UN force rushed to the sky, illuminating the darkness, and the violent breath like a volcanic eruption dispelled the coldness of midnight. Luoyan leaned forward, and his figure disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he came to the top of Baoxiang's head. The dragon elephant was raised high, and the red eyes were burning. The Han sword was chopped down like this. Baoxiang was about to raise his hand to catch the sword. An arm flew out. The corners of his eyes were full of sticky blood. It gushed out from the broken arm, and fell to the ground again. Baoxiang's expression suddenly twisted. The sword broke his arm, but it aroused his ferocity. He roared and locked Luoyan's sword holding arm with one hand. At this time, a long whip came, and pulled Luoyan's other arm. Seeing this, Jiuying he roared, "Jiuying, do it." The sound of gunfire and the old man's roar sounded at the same time. A black, dark aura exploded from Luoyan's chest. It was the gas formed by the shattering of the deep bullet. Chapter 807 Inhuman. The gas formed by the shattering of deep bomb was like a flash in the pan and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Luoyan felt that his yuanli was rapidly decreasing and his realm was also declining. In the blink of an eye, he had fallen from the advanced realm to the intermediate realm. But at this time, the dragon blood essence seemed to be stimulated by something and became abnormally active. Luoyan could feel that the blood essence of the giant beast in his body was like taking stimulants, almost overcoming his control and starting on its own. At this time, the violent bear had already let go of Luoyan's hand and flew back, pulling away for a distance. Only Liu Man's whip was still entangled with Luoyan, and she herself seemed unwilling to let go. Baoxiang laughed loudly. "Boy, you are in trouble. Do you know what that was just now? Is your yuanli declining, and your elm declining now? Come on, say it again. You have to give an explanation to those ants. Aren't you very arrogant? Let me see if you can be more arrogant." Liu Man also covered her mouth with her hand and chuckled, saying, "My whip is not ordinary. The poison soaked on it is not as strong as daughter's red, but once the skin is broken, it will touch the poison. It won't take long before you will be poisoned to death and die of intestines and stomach rot. Little brother, why don't you take a look at your hands quickly? Maybe the skin has been broken. Jiuying he breathed a sigh of relief. Luo Yang gave him a great sense of oppression just now. However, deep bullet hit him, and Luo Yan was like a cooked duck, unable to fly out. My friend is still inexperienced. Little do you know that when facing the enemy, you will do everything you can. Compared to what we are doing now, poisoning the people in the camp is just child's play. Jiuying he continued to use words to provoke his opponent. Even though in his eyes, the matter tonight was already secured. But he still tried his best to make sure that nothing could go wrong. On the rooftop in the distance, Jiuying leaned in front of the sight, and the cross star moved to the target's head. Just now, the deep bullet did not break the body, but exploded outside the body. Although this special bullet is not like other sniper bullets, and is easy to break. But the target's skin was not even broken, which shows that the body strength is very high, which is outrageous. Jiuying didn't waste any words. When the cross star was around Luo Yan, he was going to shoot. Unexpectedly, Luo Yan suddenly raised his head in the sight. A golden vertical line appeared in those red eyes, making these pupils look like some kind of animal. Through those red eyes, Jiuying felt a boiling murderous intent. His whole body was stiff. The finger pressing on the trigger did not dare to move. He seemed to hear the sound of some kind of beast swallowing saliva behind him. This made Jiuying's back cold and his mind blank. In the distance, Bao Xiang, Liu Man, and Jiuying he were the same as Jiuying. They all felt a violent murderous aura. They showed an expression of disbelief. They didn't understand why Luo Yan's Yuanlian realm had dropped. But the murderous aura did not drop but increased? Question mark? There was wind blowing. Luo Yan's black and chaotic flying. The golden vertical pupil in his red eyes shrank slightly. A curved horn appeared on his forehead. Dragon scales emerged one after another. Under the clothes on his chest, the red light transmitted by the blood pupil was faint. Luo Yan's posture at this time was inhuman. Exclamation mark. Although I don't know what you did, but you did wake it up. While speaking, the dragon elephant was raised. The blood-colored brilliance flashed in the dark night. Jiuying, who was on the rooftop of the abandoned building, felt a chill on his head and then lost consciousness. His gun and his body. In an instant, they were divided into two parts. Then the building shook violently, and the building was shattered. Before the rubble had time to fall, a sharp whistle suddenly sounded from the distance between the activity center and Jiuying's hiding place, followed by a wave of stones gushing out and boiling. A dust line was raised, connecting Luo Yan and Jiuying. What the hell? How can he still have such power? Don't worry about it, kill him. Bao Xiang burst out with all his strength and stepped in front of Luo Yan. An illusory and dark flame spurted out from his one arm. The flame formed a demon figure with bared fangs and claws behind him. When Bao Xiang punched down, the figure behind him also punched. The ultimate skill, Azure Karma Fist. No temptation. He burst out his strongest killing move right away. Facing the inhuman Luo Yan at this moment, Bao Xiang did not dare to despise him. Luo Yan raised his left hand, spread his palm, and pressed Bao Xiang's fist. The ground under the feet of the two people rumbled. The black karma fire was extinguished by Luo Yan's palm. Bao Xiang's pupils shrank. Luo Yan stretched out his left hand and slapped Bao Xiang's arm away. When Bao Xiang's middle door was wide open, Luo Yan stretched out a claw that was emitting a demonic red light and lightly touched the man's chest. The ripples spread and instantly spread to the whole body. Bao Xiang's whole body shook slightly. Suddenly it broke into hundreds of pieces and fell to the ground. The evil claw has a certain chance to add any disaster of bingy, water and fire, or evil disease when attacking. Exclamation mark. How is it possible? Liu Man was so shocked that her face turned pale. In the blink of an eye, Jiuying and Bao Xiang were both dead. How to fight such a monster? Now, she regretted not daring to take Chen Guangli's job. Very regretful. Plop. Jiuying he suddenly knelt on the ground and shouted. Student Luo Yan, please spare my life. I was blinded by greed, so I took Chen Guangli's order. But the layout was Jiuying's idea. It was Ma Dong who hired someone to capture the 3 children. It was Liu Man who poisoned the camp, and it was Bao Xiang who attacked you. From beginning to end, I didn't give any ideas, never participated in any preparations, and never poisoned or attacked you. Please let me go. I kowtow to you. Please don't kill me. Liu Man was stunned. Jiang He, this old man, has always had a bad reputation in the industry. But I didn't expect him to be so shameless. He actually knelt down and begged for mercy from his opponent in order to survive! Exclamation mark. However, as long as he could survive, kneeling down would not lose meat. Liu Man suddenly wanted to kneel down as well. Unexpectedly, Liu Yan pulled the long whip violently, pulled Liu Man over, and hugged her waist. As for the poison on the whip, it was naturally swallowed up by the dragon blood essence. Feeling the warmth and strength of Liu Yan's hand around her waist, Liu Man immediately leaned against him, using her chest and legs to convey some obscure messages. Student Liu Yan, we can be said to have known each other through fighting. Look, why don't you spare my sister this time? The dead cannot be resurrected. But my sister is a living person. Listen to my sister's heartbeat. Can you bear to kill my sister like this? As long as you spare my sister, I will listen to you from now on. What are you doing? As Liu Man pleaded softly, Liu Yang put the whip in her hand around her neck. Then he whispered, among these people, the most unforgivable one. That's you. Chapter 808 Cremation. Jiang He inexplicably recalled the scene when he was a child, playing with a spinning top under a big tree with a group of friends. First, use a rope to circle the spinning top, then pull it back hard, and the spinning top will spin whoosh whoosh. Just like now. The young man named Liu Yan pulled Liu Man's poisonous whip, and the woman spun like a spinning top. She danced like a dancer on the stage at midnight, and the blood mist sprayed from her neck was the best annotation of her dance. Jiang He's scalp tingled. As an industry insider, he knew Liu Man very well. This woman surnamed Liu was full of poison. Once, she assassinated a master. She actually planted poison in her body. When the master couldn't stand the temptation, and combined with her, he died at the happiest moment. So, Jiang He couldn't understand. Why didn't Liu Man's daughter's red wine work, and why was Liu Yan not afraid of the poisonous whip in her hand at all? Is this person immune to all poisons? Turn. Liu Man lay on the ground, her head twisted to one side unnaturally. Whether her neck was broken, or her skin was scratched by her poison whip, it was enough to take her life. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 5 masters died and 1 was disabled. Jiang He was left trembling on the ground. The old man wanted to run. But after seeing the sword that Liu Yan used to kill Jiuying, he knew that he could not escape that move. That was as thin as smoke, but had great killing power. Moreover, that move was fast. It was so fast that Jiuying's body was separated, the building collapsed, and the earth was split. Not to mention that he only had 2 legs. Jiang He asked himself that, even if he had 2 more, he could not escape such a fatal blow. At this moment, the young man who appeared in the old man's field of vision with an inhuman appearance had turned around. His back was against the moonlight on the ground. His body was just a black shadow, but the golden light in his eyes was bright and dazzling. Jiang He tried to put on a smile and said, Mr. Liu Yan, although I'm not talented, I still have some strength to use. Moreover, I'm good at the mysterious arts, especially the fire magic. It can be said that among people of the same realm, I'm second to none in the attainment of the mysterious arts. As long as Mr. Liu Yan spares my life, I will definitely serve you at your service, and follow your lead without any second thoughts. He looked at Liu Yan. Liu Yan said nothing. The murderous aura on his body became stronger and stronger. It looked like he had no intention of letting me go. Do I have to fight? What can I fight with? Jiuying is dead, Bao Xiang is dead, and even Liu Man is dead. There is only a disabled person left. Me. That's right. Jiang He hurriedly shouted, Sir, please listen to me. I can help you deal with the Chen family. If you kill me, no one will come forward to identify that beast Chen Guangli. At that time, the Chen family will have to seek justice for their people. But as long as I stand up, Chen Guangli will have no way to deny it, and the Chen family may have to compensate you for your losses. In addition, if I come forward, I must make the Chen family hate me to the core. In this way, I will definitely be on the same side with you in the future, otherwise there will be no place in the world for me. Therefore, my loyalty to you is guaranteed. Luo Yan stopped. In the peeping silver eyes, Jiuying He's inner voice was clearly visible. He had also peeped into the inner voices of these people before, and only then did he know that they were hired by Chen Guangli. Now, he is sure that Jiuying He is consistent in his words and deeds. However, after the incident with Lin Yuanfang, Luo Yan knew that even the inner voice could only be used as a reference. It cannot be completely trusted. He glanced at Ma Dong not far away. He can also identify Chen Guangli. Ma Dong's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, yes, Mr. Luo Yan. I can also identify Chen Guangli. Just spare my life. Before he finished speaking, he saw Jiuying He stand up, turn to him, and make a seal with his hands. Ma Dong's mind went blank. Then he shouted, Jiuying He, what are you doing? Mr. Jiuying, don't mess around. Ma Dong immediately turned around and crawled on the ground with his remaining hand and foot. He wanted to get as far away from Jiuying He as possible. The next second, the heat wave behind him was scorching. As soon as Ma Dong turned around, his vision was occupied by orange-red flames. Jiuying He, you old man. Ma Dong cursed, then screamed, and soon there was no sound in the flames. Jiuying He turned around, knelt down with a plop, and said with a smile on his face, Mr. Luo Yan, now only I can help you. Luo Yan watched him silently. After a few seconds, the golden color in his eyes faded, and the dragon scales on his body disappeared. He turned around and walked towards the slope where he had just appeared. Follow me. Looking at Luo Yan's figure and feeling his true energy breath of only the intermediate level, Jiuying He hesitated in his heart. He hesitated whether to take the opportunity to escape, whether to take the risk. But in the end, he followed. He didn't dare. He didn't dare to face Luo Yan's inhuman side again. He didn't dare to bet his life. Although he is no longer young, who says that old people don't cherish life? On the contrary, Jiuying He cherishes his life more than anyone else. The two disappeared in the shadows under the slope. It was dawn. The light shone from the skylight, illuminating the hall. Luo Yan walked into the hall holding Xiaoran. He personally cleaned the blood on Xiaoran's body and wiped it off carefully, leaving no drop of blood on the body. Then he put the girl together with her father. In the hall, 78 bodies were neatly arranged. There was no blood on each body. These were the results of Luo Yan and Jiuying He's one night. Luo Yan stood up, closed his eyes silently, and bowed to the dead. Jiuying He quickly followed suit, bowing and saying in his heart, you lowly people, you don't know how many lifetimes you have cultivated to have a bad star willing to stand up and defend you. Otherwise, you will never be able to receive my respect. A moment later, Luo Yan and Jiuying He returned to the surface. Looking down, Luo Yan whispered, burn it. Don't let wild beasts eat their bodies. Jiuying He nodded quickly, not daring to talk nonsense, and quickly made a seal. Soon, flames rose from the ground. The orange-yellow flames quickly filled every space, every cave, and finally everything in the hall was submerged in the flames. After doing all this, Jiuying He wiped his sweat and looked at the two bodies behind him. Liu Man and Ma Dong. Luo Yan used a water pipe to pass through the body as a support. Luo Yan arranged the bodies to kneel and pray, facing the direction of the activity center, asking for forgiveness from the 78 people in Zeman village. Thinking that the two bodies would soon be eaten by wild dogs and wolves, Jiuying He couldn't help but sigh that Jiuying and Bao Xiang were lucky. One of them was buried in the ruins, and the other was crushed to pieces. Otherwise, they would have to be carried out by Luo Yan for public display. At this time, the old man saw Luo Yan took out his mobile phone, not knowing who to call, and then whispered, help me. Chapter 809 Live Broadcast. Surface Base. Yesterday, almost all the personnel in Guangling camp left. Today, the mecha divisions in other camps also left one after another. However, the main forces of Guangling and Qingyang cities have just withdrawn from the forbidden area. Now they are resting in the base, so the base is as lively as ever. But obviously, some people don't like it. For example, Chen Guangli. At this time, he was lying on the bed, pushed away a white body, jumped off the bed, suddenly opened the window and shouted, "Stop making noise, it's only a few hours now, can you be quiet for your young master?" After venting, he closed the window, but still cursed. The woman on the bed came over, hugged him and said, "Mr. Chen, don't be angry. Come here. Let me calm you down." Half an hour later, Chen Guangli walked out of the room, and at this time his cell phone rang. "Hello. Yeah, Liu Jiuying. Really? Yeah, okay. I know." He put down the phone, smiled, and then came to the representative office of Yunma City. In the office, Chen Guangli saw his third uncle packing up. "It's time to go, third uncle." Chen Guangli picked up a pen from the table and played with it. Chen Wang took the pen from his hand. "Do you still want to stay here? At least stay one more night." Chen Guangli said with a smile. "That matter has come to an end." Chen Wang interrupted him. "Don't tell me, I don't want to know anything." Chen Guangli whistled. "Third uncle, you are still as cunning as a fox. Then I will handle it myself." Chen Wang said, "Then I will stay one more night, and we will leave together tomorrow." "Okay." Chen Guangli waved and left. In the blink of an eye, it was evening. Chen Wang had just enjoyed dinner with the base commander and returned to his office. "Is Guangli back?" He took off his coat, and the assistant took it and said, "No, in the evening, young Master Chen left the base and has not returned yet." "Left the base?" Chen Wang asked. "Did he bring people with him?" "Yes," the assistant replied, and hung up Chen Wang's coat. Hearing that Chen Guangli had people with him, Chen Wang was relieved. Now that the forbidden area has been destroyed, there is no need to worry about the giant beast. In addition, since Guangling and King Guiyang have joined forces to clean up the forbidden area, gold diggers and adventurers are prohibited from entering and leaving. As long as Chen Guangli does not run far, there should be no danger. "I'll go to rest first. Notify me when Guangli comes," Chen Wang ordered, then left the office and went into a lounge. After the assistant agreed, he just sat down when his cell phone rang. He took it out, and the screen lit up by itself for some reason, and opened a video window with a snowflake in it. After a while, there was a picture. From the picture, it seemed to be a room with soft light and the camera from top to bottom. The assistant was puzzled and wanted to close the video window, but found that the phone did not listen to the command at all. At this moment, the door opened and someone appeared in the camera. Chen Guangli. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, "Liu Jiuying, I'm here." The assistant was stunned and rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not mistaken. He looked puzzled. How did his young master appear in the camera? What he didn't know was, at this time, everyone's mobile phone in the entire base received this video window. Even the big screen in the base command center was the same. What's going on? Has our system been hacked? The commander heard about the strange video window and rushed over and saw Chen Guangli walking into the room. Then, another figure appeared in the camera. An old man. The old man said in a deep voice, "Master Chen Guangli, according to your instructions, we have killed the student named Liu Yan." Hearing this, the whole command center was silent. The commander was stunned and said, "What did he just say?" Chen Guangli asked someone to cause trouble for Liu Yan. The commander was instantly furious. The Chen family doesn't take our cause seriously. And this video not only caused a wave in the command center, but also shook the entire base. You have to know who is in the base now. It is the main force of Guangling and King Guiyang. Liu Yan is the reserve of Guangling Corps. He was even awarded the title of God General in King Guiyang Underground City. Now, the old man actually said that Chen Guangli ordered him and some other people to cause trouble for Liu Yan and killed Liu Yan. It immediately exploded. Who is this? Who is Chen Guangli? Anyone who dares to touch our Guangling students must die, even if he is the king of heaven. Chen Guangli, the Chen family, seems to be a big family in Yunma City. No matter which family he is, he openly hired someone to kill someone, and the victim was our King Guiyang Divine General. The Chen family must give us an explanation. The representative of Yunma City this time seems to be from the Chen family, named Chen Wang. Yes, before, Chen Guangli made trouble in the forbidden area and was detained by Liu Yan's team, and the Chen family even paid money to redeem them. The Chen family must be unwilling to accept this, so they took revenge on Luo Yan. Let's go to the representative's office. So Chen Wang, who had fallen asleep, was suddenly awakened by a sudden knock on the door. He snorted and said unkindly, "What are you doing? Even if Guangli comes back, there's no need to do this." The door opened, and the pale-faced assistant ran in. "Mr. Chen, something happened. Something happened." Master Chen appeared in the phone. He seemed to have hired a killer to deal with the student named Luo Yan and killed him. Now, the whole base knows about it. The people from Qingyang and Guangling are outside. They want you to come out and give an explanation. Chen Wang was stunned. He was the only one who knew about Chen Guangli's targeting of Luo Yan. In fact, he didn't want to know the details of Chen Guangli's actions. It was for the sake of confidentiality. But now, how could it be known to the whole city? "Where is the video?" The assistant quickly handed over the phone. Chen Wang took a look and saw that it was indeed Chen Guangli. At this time, after exchanging a few pleasantries with Jiuying, he got straight to the point. "Where is the body of the man surnamed Luo?" "Jiuying," he said, "Mr. Chen Guangli, you hired Beoxing, Liu Man, Jiuying, Ma Dong, and me, Jiuying. But now, except for me, everyone else is dead." Chen Guangli said nonchalantly, "If they die, they die. What about their pensions?" "What pensions?" Chen Guangli waved his hand and said, "I gave you a deposit. If you die, this is the pension." Chen Wang's face turned red and blue. He shouted, "Waste." He was set up. Why did the man surnamed Jiuying keep saying Mr. Chen Guangli on the left and Mr. Chen Guangli on the right? Why did he say all the names of the hired killers? This is to imply that Guangli knew who he hired and that Guangli was the mastermind. He actually admitted it himself. Chen Wang was so angry that he almost vomited blood. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 810 Public Outrage. Outside the building, the crowd was in an uproar. "Listen," he admitted it. He even wanted to embezzle the pension. He's so cheap. This Chen guy is not a human being. Also, the representative of Yunma City, come out and say something. Don't play dead. Is anyone from the Chen family dead? If not, come out and say something. Give us an explanation. The mecha divisions from Guangling and Qingyang surrounded the gate. You Chen family are really a bunch of bastards. You can't win head on, so you play dirty, right? Some time ago, when TSUI attacked the city, it was Luo Yan who blocked the cannon. Didn't this indirectly save your life? Good guy, is this how you repay your lifesaver? Luo Yan is going to die. If Chen Guangli doesn't die, I won't be a mecha division. Yes, the Chen guy must die. In the office, Chen Wang was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. Hurry up, cut off the communication. Cut off the communication signal quickly, otherwise, our Chen family's face will be thrown into the gutter this time. The assistant wanted to cry, but had no tears. "Mr. Chen, if the base doesn't help, I'm afraid we won't be able to cut off the communication signal alone." Chen Zhu's eyes were bloodshot. "Think of a way for me. Think of a way for me quickly." The assistant picked up the phone. At this time, the old man surnamed Jiuying in the video said again, "Mr. Chen Guangli, in addition to Beoxing and his group, someone in a survivor camp also died. A total of 78 people. To complete your commission, Jiuying set up a trap, taking advantage of the kindness and sense of responsibility of the target Luo Yan. Someone kidnapped 3 children from that camp and deliberately let Luo Yan run into them. Luo Yan brought the 3 children back to the camp, and as Jiuying expected, Luo Yan was worried that the traffickers would retaliate against the camp, so he stayed in the camp overnight. Liu Man took the opportunity to poison Luo Yan with the intention of killing him, but 78 people in the camp were also poisoned to death. Chen Guangli was a little impatient. "Old Jiuying, why are you talking so much? Who cares who died? I just want Luo Yan to die. As for the others, whether it's Beoxing and his group, or this crappy camp, if they die, they die. Jiuying he smiled. Master Chen, after all, a lot of people died. And those people didn't know why they died until they died. Look, why don't you just pray for peace of mind? Go and burn incense for the deceased, or pay your respects or something. Chen Guangli was furious. Jiuying he, are you crazy? He rushed over and grabbed Jiuying he's collar. You want me to burn incense and pay my respects to those lowly people? Do they deserve it? It's not a pity for these ants to die, let alone less than 100 people. Even if 1,000 or 10,000 people died, they can die for me, for the face of the Chen family. That's their blessing. And you? Don't be so gilded. Who do you think you are? You're just like those mecha masters in the base. You're just lucky and have embarked on the path of cultivation. Do you really think you've made a leap? Bah, you're only slightly better than these ants. They are ants, you're dogs. You're only worthy of guarding our house. Do you understand? In the office, Chen Wang sat down on the chair, no longer having the strength to get angry. He knew that Chen Guangli would not dare to say these words, no matter how arrogant he was on weekdays. But now, Chen Guangli was somewhere unknown, probably thinking that only Jiuying he was present, so he dared to be so arrogant. But he didn't know that everything he said and did was recorded and made public. At this time, the outside of the building was quiet, but the quieter it was, the more worried Chen Wang was. Outside the building. Did you all hear it? So in the eyes of the Chen family, we are just dogs. It's okay for us, but the Chen surname doesn't treat the people in the camp as human beings, which is too much. That's not surprising. Even we are just dogs in his eyes. You still expect him to treat the civilians in the camp as human beings? The Chen family is quite arrogant. Yes, they are quite arrogant. With such an arrogant attitude, why doesn't Chen Wang dare to say a word? Is it because we are not worthy? Is it because we, the dog slaves, are not worthy of you, Chen Wang, to see us? The roar was like a tsunami. The impact made Chen Wang's hands and feet tremble. He called his assistant. Go and ask Commander Lu from the base. Ask him to come over. I have something to say to him. The assistant nodded and left through another door. Chen Wang looked at his phone and saw that Jiuying he was still trying to persuade him. Master Chen, death is the greatest. Even the civilians in the camp are living people. As far as I know, there is a retired teacher in there. He taught the children in the camp every day. When he died, he was still making lesson plans. There is also a father who works diligently. He is saving money and wants to use the money to exchange him and his children to live in the underground city. There is also a little girl who likes to draw and plans to go to the outside world when she grows up and record the world with paper and pen. They have worked hard to live. They shouldn't have died like this. Chen Guangli roared. Shut up. It's endless, right? What retired teacher? It's none of my business. Give me the body of the surname Luo. You take the money and get out of here immediately. Jiuying he sighed and pointed to a room in front. Luo Yan, he is in there. You should have said it earlier. Chen Guangli then loosened Jiuying he's collar and walked towards the room. Suddenly, he stopped, then backed away little by little. The camera turned. Chen Wang saw a figure walking out of the room in the picture. Who else could it be but Luo Yan? Chen Guangli looked at Jiuying he fiercely. Didn't you just say that he was dead? Jiuying he said expressionlessly. I lied to you, okay? Chen Guangli immediately shouted. Come here, come here. Jiuying he whispered. Don't shout. The people you brought must have been dealt with by Mr. Luo Yan. Chen Guangli looked at Luo Yan fiercely. What do you want to do? I'm telling you, I'm a member of the Yin Chen family. As long as I lose a hair, my Chen family will hunt you down to the ends of the earth. No, besides you, there are also your relatives and your friends. Your woman. Everyone who has anything to do with you must die. In the picture, Luo Yan raised his head, faced the camera, and said two words. Really? This sentence seemed not to be asking Chen Guangli. Instead, it was asking Chen Wang in front of the screen. The picture disappeared at this moment. Chen Wang had no strength at all. He just kept saying, you're a piece of trash. You're a piece of trash. You've ruined the Chen family. You've ruined me, too. Chapter 811, Liquidation. In the room, Luo Yan raised his head, looked at the camera above and said, really? Then he cut off the communication signal. He believed that what he had just shown was enough. It was enough to let everyone know what kind of person Chen Guangli was. The situation was set up by Luo Yan, and the inspiration came from Jiuying. When the old man said he would stand up and identify Chen Guangli last night, Luo Yan thought of this. The technical means were provided by Guanqi of Xing Feng, ensuring that everyone in the base could see the wonderful performance just now. As for now, it's time to settle accounts. Ding ding dang dang. Chen Guangli watched Luo Yan take out a roll-up portable knife bag, roll it on the table, and 7 or 8 short knives appeared in the light. Chen Guangli's heart tightened when he saw it. What do you want to do? He moved suddenly towards the door. A flash of fire flashed in front of his eyes. It almost burned his eyebrows. But it was Jiuying who blocked his way. Chen Guangli was furious. Old man, you are courting death. You dare to betray me. Do you know what the consequences will be? Jiuying, he said with a smile. Of course I understand. Betraying you, Chen Guangli, is equivalent to provoking the Chen family. The Chen family will definitely not let me go. But that is a matter for the future. But if I didn't betray you, I would have died last night. How to choose between dying now, dying later, or maybe dying? I think any normal person would know how to choose. Chen Guangli had a look of regret on his face. I knew I shouldn't have trusted you, a fence sitter. Come on. Do you think Liu Man and Ma Dong didn't beg for mercy? It's just that they didn't have the chance. Liu Man almost took off all her clothes and got close to Mr. Luo, but it's a pity that Mr. Luo didn't like her. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the chance. Jiuying, he chuckled dryly, and his eyes, which had been squinting, opened a slit. You had a chance. Just now I asked you to go and burn incense and pay your respects to the 78 people in Nanman village. You should agree. Mr. Luo can at least give you a quick death. Now, Chen Guangli felt a chill on his back as he saw Luo Yan carefully selecting a short knife and walking towards him. His legs softened, but he shouted sternly, "What are you going to do? Don't come over here. I advise you to stop and let me leave immediately. I can pretend that this never happened. I won't bother with you in the future. But if I lose a hair, I will make you pay for it." Luo Yan ignored him. 78 lives in Nanman village. I promised to give them an explanation. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. 1 knife for each life. If you survive the 78 knives, I will let you go back. I will never break my promise. If you can't survive, remember to apologize to them when you get down there. He walked towards Chen Guangli. Chen Guangli screamed and rushed to the window. One after another, Yuan Li chains held him in place. Behind him, Jiuying, he formed seals with his hands, doing his duty faithfully. Jiuying, you old dog, you will not die well. Chen Guangli screamed. At this moment, Luo Yan stabbed him in the shoulder. This knife is for a grandfather named Liu Guo. Remember his name well. Chen Guangli was in so much pain that tears came out, and he yelled, "Fuck your grandfather. Luo Yan, I will definitely kill you. I will break your hands and feet, cut your flesh with a slow knife, and let you die after 3 days of cutting." Luo Yan pulled out the short knife expressionlessly. Blood immediately gushed out of Chen Guangli's shoulder. Then, the second knife stabbed into the right side of his chest. This knife is for a father named Zhaji. Luo Yan said calmly. Luo Yan, you will not die well. I will kill your whole family. I will let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. Chen Guangli's expression was distorted in pain, and bubbles came out of his nose. The third knife went in from the abdomen, but stopped in time, only hurting the skin and flesh, not touching the internal organs. This knife is for a child named Ziranan. Luo Yan stabbed and pulled out, shaking off the blood on the knife. After the third knife, Chen Guangli was already panting, and he couldn't be as full of energy as before. Luo Yan, I will definitely kill you. Definitely. The fourth knife was the thigh, picking the most muscle part, avoiding the aorta. This knife is for Sun Xiaopang. The fifth knife was the arm, also picking the most fleshy part, avoiding the main blood vessels. This knife is for Wang Zhao, who after 5 knives, Chen Guangli had become a bloody man. He was panting, his face was pale, and he shouted, "Stop stabbing. Stop stabbing. I'm wrong, Luo Yan. I shouldn't do this. I'm not a human." I'm worse than pigs and dogs. Hurry up and save me. I'll go to burn incense for the folks in Nanman village tomorrow. Luo Yan drew his knife and said calmly, "Sixth knife, no, don't. I'm talking to you. You should listen to me." Chen Guangli died. He lay in his own blood like a dead fish. In the end, he didn't survive 78 knives. Luo Yan looked at the body on the ground with some regret and said calmly, "Take him away." They came to Nanman village overnight. Luo Yan followed the same method and made Chen Guangli kneel in front of the burnt activity center, side by side with Liu Man, Ma Dong and others. After doing all this, Luo Yan looked at Jiuying He. "You performed well." Jiuying He smiled. Then there was a cold light in his eyes, and a sword light circled around his neck. The dragon elephant returned to the scabbard. Jiuying He covered his neck and widened his eyes. He uttered 3 words with difficulty. "Why? You were right last night. Jiuying planned it, Ma Dong executed it, and Liu Man poisoned it." Luo Yan said softly, "You didn't even attack me. But that's not enough. Because you are here. You participated. You didn't stop it, didn't refuse it. Then, you have a share in these people's lives. But you stood up and identified Chen Guangli. So I only give you 1 sword instead of 27 swords. This is my mercy." Jiuying He's eyes widened and he died. But Luo Yan didn't let his body kneel on the ground, but dug a grave to bury him. As a reward for Jiuying He identifying Chen Guangli, the matter was over. Luo Yan bowed deeply in the direction of the activity center. Then he walked into the night and left with his sword pressed. In the evening of the next day, several cars arrived at Nanman village and came to the vicinity of the activity center. The car door opened. Chen Wang got out of the car and saw several bodies kneeling on the open ground. Among them was his nephew Chen Guangli. Although he had a bad feeling when the live broadcast was suddenly stopped last night, he still sighed when he saw Chen Guangli's body. This sigh was not for Chen Guangli, but for himself and the Chen family. There was no anger or curse. Chen Wang just said tiredly, "Collect the bodies. Collect them all." Chapter 812 Temporary Calm. Not long after, the Yinma Chen family released a message through the giant beast strategic mansion. The Chen family removed Chen Guangli from the family tree, claiming that such a bad person was not qualified to be included in the Chen family tree. In addition, the Chen family solemnly apologized to Luo Yan for what Chen Guangli had done, and later sent a batch of training materials and a unique skill to Guangling City to Luo Yan as compensation for the Chen family. At the same time, the Chen family also promised not to pursue any matter about Chen Guangli. In addition, the Chen family also apologized to the Mecha Masters of Guangling and King Guiyang for Chen Guangli's arrogant remarks. Finally, the Chen family has invested in building a mausoleum at the activity center of Nanman village to commemorate the 78 innocent victims in the village. After this news came out, it was considered to calm the anger of many people. Even so, Guangling still sent a complaint against the Chen family to Yinma City. That day, Yinma Dicheng, Chen Mansion. The Chen family is a big family in Yinma, and the mansion occupies a large area. At this time, deep inside the Chen mansion, there was a simple hut that was out of place with the luxurious mansion. Right in front of this hut, a middle-aged man was kneeling. In the open space in the distance, there were 7 or 8 people standing, men and women, old and young. They all looked at the simple hut. At this time, the middle-aged man kneeling in front of the hut shouted, "Dad, Guangli can't die in vain. He is also your grandson. Now he has not only been expelled from the family, but his body has even been eaten by wild dogs. And the murderer is alive and well, and we even have to give him potions and unique skills. This is a great shame for our Chen family. What a shame." After saying this, the middle-aged man kowtowed. This man was Chen Guangli's father, Chen Xin. With a creak, the door of the simple hut finally opened. An old man walked out. The old man had white hair, many black spots on his face, and his eyes seemed turbid. However, if you look closely, you will find that there is a hidden brilliance in each of his pupils. I told you a long time ago that children should not be spoiled too much. Sooner or later, something will happen. It's a pity that you don't take it to heart. As in, this world is big, and the Chen family is small. After leaving this drinking horse city, there will always be some people we can't mess with. You used to not believe in evil. Do you believe it now? Chenzin raised his head, with blood dripping on his forehead. Dad, I believe it. I believe it. But Guangli is my son. The only son. I had a lot of trouble to have him as a son. He can't just die like this. No. At this time, Chen Wang, who had just returned home, came out. Second brother, I understand how you feel. I'm also very sad that Guangli died. But now, we can't do anything. Chenzin suddenly exploded. How dare you say that? Third brother, how can you be someone's uncle? Is that how you look at your nephew? 27 times. Guangli was stabbed 27 times. When he was little, he cried in pain, even if his skin was scratched. How painful it must have been for him to be stabbed 27 times. You didn't find him the first time. You actually waited until the next day to find him. Tell me, are you worthy of your family name? Chen Wang was also angry. Do you think I wanted to find him the next day? Did you know that I had the mecha divisions of King Jiuying and Guangling surrounded me that night? It was all thanks to your precious son. He spoke without thinking and aroused public anger. If I wanted to go out at that time, the people outside would spit at me and drown me. Dong dong dong. The old man of the Chen family tapped the ground with his cane. That's enough. As in, the third brother didn't mean to go look for him so late. Third brother, you should also understand your second brother's feelings. This matter is just like the third brother said, let's just forget about it for the time being. Now we are in the center of the storm, and any move we make will be watched. Besides, do you think Guangling won't be on guard against us? So, let's just forget about it for the time being. Of course. No matter how wrong Guangli is, he is also a descendant of our Chen family. Even if he deserves to die, he should die at the hands of our own people, instead of being publicly tried by a hairy boy who came out of nowhere. This is a trial for Guangli alone, but a slap in the face of everyone in our Chen family. We need to find an opportunity to settle this account with this kid. But not now. The old man looked at Chenzin. I don't care how angry or sad you are, or anything like that. You have to bear it, hold it in, and swallow your broken teeth. You are not allowed to do anything without my approval. Otherwise, get out of the Chen family. Chenzin gritted his teeth and nodded. Dad, I listen to you. But when you can act, you must let me personally avenge Guangli. He stabbed my son 27 times. I want 10 times. No, 100 times back. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It was not until he returned to Guangling City that Luo Yan learned that the Chen family had released information and compensated himself and the 78 people in Nanmen village. As for the Chen family's so-called non-investigation of Chen Guangli's murder, Luo Yan didn't take it to heart at all. How could the Chen family be okay with being able to teach such a scumbag as Chen Guangli, who was arrogant and arrogant? Now the Chen family's so-called non-investigation is just because the facts have become a big deal and they dare not act rashly. Luo Yang bet that, as long as they are given a chance, they will definitely retaliate against him. What's more, when Luo Yan decided to take the 78 lives of Nanmen village and not let these people's lives be treated as worthless, Luo Yan had already engraved the Chen family in his heart. The reason why he didn't immediately go to the Chen family for trouble was because he thought his own strength was not enough. When I enter Tongsun, I can go to the Chen family to settle this account. 78 people died in Nanmen village. Just take Chen Guangli's life as a death penalty? How can it be so easy? At 3 PM, Luo Yan returned to Basin Academy. As soon as he entered the gate, he saw a car driving towards him at lightning speed, and then hurriedly braked. Then Yang Lekei stuck his head out of the car window. Leo Luo, you are back. Hurry up and get in the car. Teacher Wei is sick. We are going to the hospital to see him. Luo Yan's mind went blank. Wei Fenghe is sick. How could it be? He got into the car without thinking too much. In the car, Liu Ruohan was sitting in the co-pilot seat. Bei and Xiaoping were sitting in the other seats. After closing the car door, Luo Yan exchanged a few words with them and got straight to the point. Why did Teacher Wei fall ill? When did he fall ill? Bei clenched his hands and said, just a while ago. Teacher Wei suddenly fainted, and we first sent him to the infirmary. After the infirmary checked him, they stabilized Teacher Wei's condition and rushed him to the hospital. Chapter 813 Relapse of the Old Illness. The car drove towards the city hospital, and the atmosphere in the car was heavy. Baking coughed, breaking the silence, and looked at Luo Yan. We all know about the Chen family. Everyone is on your side. After knowing this, Senior Yang took people to the official website of Yunma City to curse. Yang Lixi, who was driving in front, immediately coughed a few times. Xiao Bei, let's not talk about this kind of thing. Besides, how could I curse? We went to show support, so that Yunma would not think that we have no one in Basin Academy. The Chen family is a big family in Yunma, so what? Can they reach out to our Guangling? Liu Ruohan turned around and said, Luo Yan, although the Chen family has apologized and made compensation, but don't take it lightly. Of course you'll be fine in Guangling, but you won't stay in Guangling all the time. Be careful when you go out. Such a big thing has happened. The Chen family's face has been swollen. They won't keep silent. The apology and compensation now are only out of helplessness, but after the storm is over, they will inevitably take action. If I were the head of the Chen family, I would be patient temporarily, and when the storm is calm, I will make you fall flat on your face. It's not the kind of murder that Chen Guangli did that is not presentable. I will frame you and make you stand against the public. I myself will stand on the moral high ground. I will first ruin your reputation and then take your life. After she finished speaking, she found that Yang Lixi looked at her strangely. What? Yang Lixi said seriously, Ruohan, I only love you in this life. I will never betray you. Liu Ruohan said unhappily, drive your car. Luo Yan nodded. He had also thought that the Chen family would retaliate, but as for how to retaliate, Luo Yan still stayed at the stage of setting up a trap to kill him. After being reminded by Liu Ruohan today, he realized that he was still naive. Liu Ruohan was right. He opened a live broadcast, almost rubbing the face of the Chen family on the ground. How could the Chen family's revenge just end with quietly killing him? Or, how could the Chen family be satisfied with just killing him? Only by framing himself, making himself disgraced, and being cursed by thousands of people, and finally killing himself with a legitimate reason, can they relieve the hatred in their hearts. Luo Yan also understood that the reason why he didn't think of this was because he was not from a big family. Therefore, all his ideas were limited by his knowledge and cognition. Liu Ruohan is different. Although the Liu family cannot be compared with a big family like the Chen family, at least, they are also considered to be upper class people in Guangling City. Therefore, Liu Ruohan's knowledge and ideas are closer to those of the Chen family. I've learned a lesson. Luo Yan said seriously. Liu Ruohan shook his head. We are all from the same academy, so you don't have to be so polite. In fact, you did a great job this time. You used live broadcast to publicly slap the Chen family in the face. It's very bold, but it's the safest way. Only by making things bigger will the Chen family restrain themselves. At least they won't cause trouble for you in the short term. Next, if you can break through and advance to the Tangxuan realm before the Chen family causes trouble, then it will be easier for the Chen family to target you, because a Tangxuan realm expert is a first-class talent, even if he is placed in the strategic palace. And if you are placed in any underground city, you will have to be worshipped. As long as you don't make too big a mistake, or openly violate some iron rules of the strategic palace. Basically, it will be difficult for the Chen family to use some rules to frame you. Luo Yan wrote down every word. Yang Lixi flattered him. My Han Han is different. She is beautiful, well educated, and smart. I'm so lucky to find a girlfriend like you. Liu Ruohan was not as thick-skinned as Yang. Her pretty face suddenly turned red, and she gritted her teeth and said, if I hear you say one more word, I will throw you out of the car. Yang Lixi immediately made a zipper pulling motion on his mouth, but he also winked at Luo Yan with a smug look, which made Luo Yan want to beat him up. Fortunately, they arrived at the hospital and Yang escaped. Entering the hospital lobby, Yang Lixi, who was always jumpy, also had a trace of solemnity in his eyes. He found a little nurse and asked about Wei Fenghua's condition seriously. After returning, he said, Teacher Wei has been sent to the operating room. Let's go. Arrived at the 5th floor of the hospital. In the waiting area, Luo Yan saw people from the college. The short figure of the old principal Pan Rinfeng kept walking back and forth in front of the door of the operating room. Xiaoxi stood by the window smoking, tapping the ground with one foot. Zhao Yiden, Ziguangaiao and other teachers were also sitting or standing in the waiting area. All of them looked anxious. Hearing the footsteps, Pan Rinfeng stopped, looked back, and saw that it was Luo Yan and the others, and nodded. "You are here too?" Luo Yan stepped forward a few steps. "Dean, Teacher Wei?" He just entered the operating room. "We have to wait for the doctor to come out to know the details." Pan Rinfeng's expression was serious, and a haze was shrouded between his brows. Liu Ruohan frowned and said, "Why did Teacher Wei suddenly?" Pan Rinfeng looked at these young faces, and after a moment, he sighed and said, "Well, there are some things that you should know, especially Luo Yan." The old principal glanced at Luo Yan. Luo Yan looked confused, not knowing what Pan Rinfeng was referring to, and why he should know more. "Follow me." Pan Rinfeng's slippers made a clacking sound on the ground, and Luo Yan and the others followed the old principal to a quiet corner. Feng Hui's illness is related to the empathy system. Pan Rinfeng's first words made Luo Yan and others feel nervous. The old principal put his hands behind his back, looked out the window and continued. "You should know that the empathy system is the intermediate bridge connecting people and mechs. Through this system, we can control mechs. For ordinary mechs, if the empathy rate exceeds 80%, they can be driven and driven. When it reaches 100%, the performance of the mecha can be perfectly exerted." Luo Yan knew these things, and Yang Li and others also knew them. But Luo Yan also knew something else. In the Battle of Changping City's air dominance that day, Pan Crossing's mecha was controlled by Luo Yan using the ability of a natural resonator. At that time, the phenomenon of boundary wall erosion occurred inside the mecha. Wen Fenghe and Yizeng both mentioned it afterwards. Boundary wall erosion usually occurs on God General level mechs, which is caused by the empathy rate exceeding 100%. Yizeng's empathy rate once reached 220%, which not only caused boundary wall erosion, but also made his realm stagnate, thus blocking the way to the Xiangang Dragon Rider. Wen Fenghe's situation was even worse. In that era when everything needed to be explored, and there was no data to refer to, Wen Fenghe's adventure and mecha empathy reached a depth of 300%. From then on, he could no longer drive the mecha and fell ill. In fact, when he learned that Wen Fenghe fell ill, Luo Yan guessed that it might be related to this matter. Now that he heard the old principal mention the empathy rate, he could be sure his mentor might have a relapse of his old illness. Chapter 814 Causes and Consequences. Pan Rinfeng continued. "So, after the empathy rate reaches 100%, can it still go up?" Without waiting for the students to answer, the old principal said, "Yes. After the empathy rate reaches 100%, it can still go up." Except for Luo Yan. It was the first time for the others to hear about this, and they all exclaimed. Yang Likai was the first to ask, "Principal, since the empathy rate has reached 100%, the performance of the mecha can be perfectly exerted. Then why should it continue to rise? What are the benefits of continuing to rise? How can the empathy rate be further increased?" A series of questions expressed everyone's thoughts. Although Luo Yan knew that the current empathy rate between humans and mechas could be maintained at a maximum of 300%, and that this record was created by his mentor and no one has been able to break it yet, he also knew that after the occurrence of boundary wall erosion, the empathy rate would continue to rise. But how did the phenomenon of boundary wall erosion occur? And the questions raised by Yang Likai, he also had no answers. After a period of silence, Pan Rinfeng spoke. The empathy rate is 100%, which can perfectly exert the performance of the mecha, relative to the mechas below the God General level. Primary, intermediate, advanced and even God Guard level mechas. The empathy rate is 100% enough. But for the God General level mechas, it is not enough. The last time Dr. Jiuying came to the academy to teach, I told you that the God General level mechas can show mysterious patterns, so that the mechas can exert greater power. Luo Yan and others nodded. They also remembered that Dr. Jiuying also said that the God General level mechas could not be upgraded to reach this level of evaluation. The God General level mechs are God General level because they are born with mysterious patterns. Pan Rinfeng looked into the distance and said, there are conditions for showing the Zuanwen. In addition to the need for the Mecha Master to advance to Tangxun before he can stimulate the Mecha with Zuan Qi, the depth of empathy between the Mecha Master and the Mecha must exceed 100%. The mechas you can access, including Luo Yan's Bian, are all subject to restrictions. The empathy rate between you and the Mecha will be forced to limit it to no more than 100%. This is a dividing line. And the God General Mecha does not have this restriction, or in other words, the God General cannot be restricted by artificial means. Therefore, you need to control the empathy rate yourself. But even so, even if there is no restriction, the empathy rate cannot be increased just because you want to. That requires years of driving and carefully understanding your Mecha. Only through such running can you improve the depth of empathy between the Mecha and you little by little. When the empathy rate exceeds 100%, even if it only exceeds 1%, you can activate the Zuanwen. The greater the depth of empathy, the higher the empathy rate, the greater the power that the Zuanwen can exert. According to the standards set by the Strategic Office, when the empathy rate reaches 120%, the full power of the Zuanwen can be exerted. Once the empathy rate exceeds 150%, the phenomenon of boundary wall erosion will occur. At this point, Pan Rinfeng turned around and looked at Luo Yan. You should know what boundary wall erosion is. Luo Yan nodded. Pan Rinfeng said, then you will explain it to them afterwards. I will skip this. But I have to add that the phenomenon of boundary wall erosion is not only formed passively because the empathy rate exceeds 150%. Under certain specific conditions, it will also occur actively. The boundary wall erosion that Luo Yan encountered in Changping that day was an active occurrence. As for why, you don't need to know this now. When you have the opportunity to contact the God General, you will naturally understand. Hearing this, Luo Yan was not without regret. The others were also a little disappointed. But they were more concerned about Wei Fenghua's situation now, so these emotions flashed by. Pan Rinfeng continued. I have said so much because I want you to understand that the empathy rate can be improved. And what will happen when the empathy rate exceeds 150%? Only in this way can you roughly understand what it is like when the empathy rate reaches 300%. Teacher Wei once took the initiative to increase his empathy rate to 300% in order to explore the empathy limit that humans and mechas can reach. This is the main reason why he fell today. A light cry suddenly sounded in the corridor. Luo Yan secretly said, sure enough. Pan Rinfeng sighed softly and said, the data you have obtained now, some safety standards quantified by the Giant Beast Strategic Office, are all the results of people like Teacher Wei who fearlessly ventured and explored in the field of mechas. It is the data they exchanged for their lives that have led to the relatively complete set of standards today. Teacher Wei is relatively lucky. He is the only one who can survive after the depth of empathy reaches 300%. But because of this incident, his cultivation cannot be further improved, and he needs to take medicine for life. He was captured at the Falcon base a year ago. Normally, even if Teacher Wei's cultivation is difficult to improve, he will not be caught so easily. But at that time, the people at the Falcon base received funding from Huang Yuanhang and obtained a device that can create an otherworld force field. Then otherworld force field is an energy field stimulated by the otherworld as the raw material. In theory, it can simulate the environment inside Thiambu space. The purpose of developing it was originally to understand Thiambu space and to prepare for the exploration and closure of Thiambu space. But after this technology appeared and flowed out of the strategic palace, it was used by some people to suppress the realm of cultivators. At that time, Teacher Wei was affected by the otherworld force field and fell in realm, so he was captured. But the otherworld force field had more than just an impact on him. That night, some hidden dangers in his body were stimulated. Although it didn't erupt immediately, the situation has become more and more serious over the past year. Until today, it finally erupted. Luo Yan's body trembled slightly. Teacher didn't mention these things at all. Pan Rinfeng shook his head. Only Di Zeng and I know about this. Feng He refused to announce it because he didn't want to affect your emotions. Last summer, he was supposed to take you to Qingyang City for exchanges and studies. But his condition was a little bad at the time and he needed conditioning, so teacher Xiaoxi replaced him. But even after a summer of conditioning, he only improved slightly. It's good that he can hold on until now before erupting. Chapter 815. What joy is there in life? What fear is there in death? Not bad? How can this be considered not bad? Luo Yan clenched his fists, feeling a deep sense of powerlessness. The feeling of watching the lives of people around him fade away, but being unable to do anything, made him extremely uncomfortable. Others were not feeling well either, and their eyes were red. At this time, Xiaoxi came over and whispered, "Principal, the doctor is out." Pan Rinfeng immediately left Luo Yan and others, and came to the operating room. Luo Yan and others followed, only to see a doctor walk out of the operating room, and take off his hat. Pan Rinfeng immediately asked, "Doctor, how is the patient?" The doctor looked at the people in the waiting area and whispered, "Let's talk over there." Luo Yan watched Pan Rinfeng and the doctor walk away. After a while of communication, Pan Rinfeng came back. The principal looked unhappy. He looked at everyone and said, "Feng He is out of danger for the time being, and will be sent to the general ward later. He will be discharged after about a week of observation." However, Pan Rinfeng sighed and said, "His condition is only temporarily stable, but he may relapse at any time. And once he relapses, I'm afraid he will never wake up again. But even if he is stable, in the best case, Feng He can only stay with us for another year." The waiting area fell silent. Xiaoxi's face turned pale, and he stepped back repeatedly, then took out a cigarette and bit it between his lips. But the hand holding the lighter kept shaking, so that it always couldn't light it. How could this happen? Xiaoyin squatted down at the foot of the wall with his head in his arms. It shouldn't be like this. Teacher Wei is such a good person, how could he only have 1 year left? Ziguangyao muttered, "I'll talk to the doctor, he may have made a mistake." Pan Rinfeng held his hand and shook his head. Luo Yan, Bei, Yang Lixi and other students all had red eyes, especially Luo Yan. For him, besides Dizeng, Wei Fenghe is the person closest to him in Guangling. It was Wei Fenghe who led him on the path of cultivation, and it was Wei Fenghe who told him that the sharpness of a sword comes from grinding, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. It was Wei Fenghe who guided him to where he is now. But now, Wei Fenghe only has 1 year left. "Principal." Luo Yan's voice was a little hoarse. "Can I do something for the teacher?" "Yes." Yang Lixi and others also said, "Can we do something?" Pan Rinfeng looked at these young faces. "Of course. Study hard, live well, and practice well. That is the best thing you can do for Feng He. If you can kill some more giant beasts, it will be even better. Okay, go back. Don't tell others about this. You go back to the academy first." After looking into the operating room, Luo Yan and others turned around and left. On the way back to school, everyone was in a low mood. So no one asked about the boundary wall erosion. 2 days passed like this. In 2 days, Luo Yan went to the hospital to visit Wei Fenghe every day, but the hospital refused to allow him to visit because the patient needed to rest. On this day, in the training hall, Luo Yan was practicing 24 solar term sword, but because of Wei Fenghe's matter, he seemed absent-minded. Not to mention the sword intent, even the sword momentum was out of shape. "What are you doing?" A voice suddenly sounded. Luo Yan turned around and saw Dizeng walking in. As he walked, Dizeng took off his coat and picked up a training sword next to him. He chopped at him with the sword. Luo Yan hurriedly blocked it, but was chopped back by Dizeng. "Is this what Feng He taught you? How can you achieve great things in the future if you are so sad over a small matter? Are students taught by Feng He not so weak? Life in the world will end, and so will death in the underworld. There is no banquet that will not end in the world. If you are so sad every time someone around you leaves, how can you live the rest of your life at ease? Besides, who is your teacher Wei? He is a real man who stands tall and upright. A real man has nothing to be happy about in life and nothing to be afraid of in death. When he participated in the experiment, didn't you know that this situation would happen? He knew. But he was not afraid. If you cry like this, you will be unhappy. Don't you look down on Wei Fenghua? Or, in your heart, Wei Fenghua is a coward who is afraid of death. One sentence and one sword. Luo Yan retreated continuously. When he said the last sentence, Luo Yan had retreated to the corner. His red eyes flickered. Luo Yan stopped retreating. He rushed forward and fought with Dizeng with two swords. Teacher Wei is not a coward. Luo Yan attacked fiercely. Two figures were fighting in the training hall. The sound of swords hitting each other was endless. After a while, Luo Yan stopped, panting. Dizeng smiled. How is it? Are you relieved now? Luo Yan nodded. Dizeng threw away the sword and poured 2 glasses of water, one for himself and one for Luo Yan. When Fenghua participated in the experiment, he was already prepared for unexpected events. In his words, he has earned every day over the years. He has no regrets. I just went to see him. Originally, we planned to send him to Jinj City in the strategic palace. The conditions there should be able to extend his life by 1 or 2 years. But he scolded me. He said that instead of investing resources in himself, a person without a future, it would be better to invest in education, in students like you. He's right. The resources that extend his life can at least produce 1 or 2 Tangsuan realms. So I had to give up this idea. Luo Yan drank water and said, is there no other way? Who knows? Dizeng looked at the water cup and said, I have reported the situation to the strategic palace to see if they have any countermeasures over the years. But it's hard to say. There is little hope. All we can do is prepare for the worst. Then, do our best to expel the giant beast and study ways to close the Yambu space. That's all we can do for him. Luo Yan raised his head. I have never heard the teacher mention his family. Dizeng snorted. He has no family. His parents died of illness before the natural disaster. After doing that experiment, Fenghua insisted on not getting married. He didn't want to drag others down. That's his bad point. He always thinks a lot about others and very little about himself. After saying that, Dizeng put down the cup. He patted Luo Yan on the shoulder. If you want to repay him, cheer up. He told me privately more than once. He is proud that he can teach a student like you. Luo Yan, one day he will leave. Let him leave with this pride. Luo Yan clenched his fists and straightened his chest. I remember. A real man refers to a man with ambition, integrity, and achievements. See Mencius Teng Wengang Zia. Wealth and honor cannot corrupt. Poverty and humbleness cannot move. Power and force cannot bend. This is called a real man. Chapter 816. No reward without merit. The next day, the Chen family came. Luo Yan met Chen Wang in the principal's office. Pan Rinfeng turned into an old man who only knew how to grow flowers and raise fish, and occasionally play with cats. The heaviness of the hospital was swept away. His eyes seemed to close and fall asleep at any time. Zhao Luo, come in. This is Mr. Chen Wang, the third head of Yunma Chens. Pan Rinfeng helped the old cat on his knees to smooth its fur. The old cat's hair on its head had grown long. When it saw Luo Yan, it seemed not to like him very much. It turned around, buried its head in Pan Rinfeng's clothes, rubbed it, and lay lazily without moving. Luo Yan's eyes fell on Chen Wang. Before, at the base, when Chen Wang went to redeem people, he and Yan Wenbo had met this representative of Yunma City. Naturally he knew him. Chen Wang looked at Luo Yan carefully. He had seen Luo Yan before. But at that time, 7 out of 10 of his attention were on Yan Wenbo, and the remaining 3 points were not necessarily all on Luo Yan. After all, when he was in the camp, he didn't know that the young man next to Yan Wenbo was a ruthless person. A real ruthless person. Student Luo Yan, how are you? Chen Wang said with a smile. Luo Yan nodded slightly, and then heard a voice. What a big airs. Third uncle took the initiative to say hello to you, and you just nodded. Luo Yan looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a woman in her 20s. She was of average appearance, with a bit of murderous aura, and a bit of hatred between her eyebrows. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly, to hide the silver circles emerging in his red eyes. Looking at the peeping silver eyes, the information line on the woman's head naturally emerged with the corresponding information. Chen Chachu, 26 years old, a member of the Qin clan of Yunma. Since the divine treasure has been opened, Luo Yan took the opportunity to peek into her heart. It was this guy who killed Guangli. Damn it, the enemy is right in front of me, but I can't do anything for my brother. Luo Yan understood in his heart. It turned out to be Chen Guangli's sister. Chen Chachu saw Luo Yan staring at her and was furious. Rat, what are you looking at? Luo Yan looked away. He didn't intend to get entangled with her. Luo Yan didn't like arguments. He was not Yang Lixi, he was a pragmatic person. If Chen Chachu was willing to give him a chance, he wouldn't mind sending this good sister to the underworld to meet her brother. Seeing Luo Yan looking away, Chen Chachu thought he was guilty and sneered. I thought you were a great person, but it turns out you are just a guy who can't take your eyes off a woman. Look. Keep looking. I don't mind. Chen Wang quickly coughed. Chachu, say less. He glanced at Pan Rinfeng and saw that the old principal was drowsy and didn't seem to pay attention to this side. So he smiled and said, Student Luo Yan, we came here to apologize to you. In addition, this is a small compensation from our Chen family. Please be sure to accept it. He put a suitcase on the table and opened it. Inside were neatly arranged bottles of medicine and a storage container. These are energy enhancing agents. In addition, this storage container contains information about a unique skill. Luo Yan glanced at the things in the box, then looked at Chen Wang. No need. The Chen family did nothing wrong. No compensation is required. Since Chen Guangli had been expelled from the Chen family tree, he was naturally not a descendant of the Chen family, so there was nothing wrong with what Luo Yan said. In addition, even if Chen Guangli had not been expelled from the Chen family, he would not have taken these things. If he took the Chen family's things, what would the lives of the 78 people in Nanman village matter? You are still wet behind the ears. Why are you putting on airs in front of me? Do you really think that our Chen family is groveling and begging for your forgiveness? Question mark. You are too good at flattering yourself. Wait until you are at peace and this matter is settled. We will slowly settle our accounts. Exclamation mark. Chen Wang's heart was in turmoil, but he remained calm on the surface, and even his smile did not change. Student Luo Yan, don't think of it as compensation. Your performance in the Operation Commission is remarkable. What the Chen family values most is young people with potential like you. These potions and unique skills are a small gift from our Chen family to make friends with you. What do you think? The silver light in Luo Yan's eyes faded, and he said calmly, no merit, no reward. Then he looked at Pan Rinfeng. Principal, I still have homework to finish. If there is nothing else, I want to go back to the classroom. Pan Rinfeng seemed to come to his senses and said, oh, go. Chen Wang's face suddenly became very ugly. Whether it was Luo Yan or Pan Rinfeng, they did not take him, Chen Wang, and the Chen family seriously. How could Luo Yan not know what he was thinking? But he and the Chen family had a feud. Judging from what Chen Wang said just now, the Chen family really had no intention of reconciling. Since they would definitely fight in the future, why should they give him face? With Pan Rinfeng's permission, Luo Yan turned around and left. Chen Wang was furious, but he smiled awkwardly. Principal Pan, this. Pan Rinfeng stroked the cat and said, Luo Yan is a student with such a personality. Not smooth enough. Yeah, and not polite either. I'll punish him later. Make him run 50 laps around the playground. Chen Wang cursed in his heart. For a student with Luo Yan's cultivation, let alone 50 laps, 500 laps would be no problem. Is this a punishment? What kind of punishment is this? Exclamation mark. But Pan Rinfeng had said this. What could Chen Wang do? He could only smile awkwardly and leave. Out of school. Sitting in the car. Chen Chachu couldn't help but said, Uncle San, how long are we going to tolerate that little bastard? Look at him. He really takes himself seriously. So noble, no merit, no reward. We shamelessly went to his door to give him things, but he didn't even look at them. It really pissed me off. Chen Wang said coldly, do you think Uncle San is willing to lower his face to curry favor with the young boy? That's all thanks to your brother? Now Guangling and King Guiyang, and even some people in Yunma City, are eyeing our Chen family. If we don't express our stance and don't pretend, we will definitely be criticized. If it's serious, someone may use this incident to attack our Chen family. He looked at Chen Chachu fiercely, and you. I know you feel sorry for your brother. But since you're coming with me, you have to swallow your anger. Look at you just now, you almost did it. Fortunately you restrained yourself, otherwise, if you dare to do it, I'll have to teach you a lesson. Seeing that Chen Wang was really angry, Chen Chuchu shuddered and said softly, I was a little excited when I saw my enemy in front of me. Chen Wang snorted. We must keep calm about this matter. Let Luo be proud now. Whoever laughs last is the real winner. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 817 Teacher's Gratitude. In a blink of an eye, Luo Yang had been back in Guangling for a week. That afternoon, he had just finished training in the training hall when he heard the news. Wei Fenghe is back. Luo Yan immediately went to the classroom and saw Wei Fenghe as expected. He was standing on the podium, smiling and thanking everyone, saying that he had recovered and that everyone was worried about him. Wei Fenghe was very popular in the 2nd and 3rd grades. Even the first year students respected and feared him. Therefore, the church was full of people inside and outside. Luo Yan did not rush to squeeze in. He waited quietly. When the crowd dispersed and Wei Fenghe came out, he stepped forward. Teacher, why are you back? Why don't you take a few more days off? Luo Yan said softly. Now only the principal, Jiuying and a few other teachers and their students know the true situation of Wei Fenghe in the school. In the eyes of others, Wei Fenghe was just overworked and had only rested in the hospital for a week. No one knew that his condition was so serious that he only had 1 year left. Wei Fenghe smiled faintly. It doesn't make much difference to me whether I rest for a few more days or a few less days, he said as he walked. I don't have much time left, but there are still many things to do. At least, I haven't finished your 3rd grade teaching plan yet. I have to buy time to finish it first, so that even if I'm not here, other teachers can guide you step by step. The sun shone on his face, and Wei Fenghe's face was not pale, but a little rosy. But this rosy face made Luo Yan feel heavy. It was too unnatural. It was as if it was obtained by overdrawing life. Wei Fenghe continued. And you? I have already planned it for you. After you reach the Tangxuan realm, you will practice Heavenly Fire Record. As for the skills, you can exchange them with the Strategic Palace, but the contribution points may cost a lot. I still have some contribution points, which will be transferred to your name in a few days. I think it should be enough. Luo Yan's heart trembled and said, no need, teacher. I have already exchanged the record of Heavenly Fire for this combat commission, and it will be distributed to me in a few days. Wei Fenghe stopped, laughed, and patted Luo Yan's arm. Good boy, it was I who underestimated you. Very good, very good. But I can't use my contribution points, so I'll transfer them to you. You are my last disciple, and as a teacher, I have to show some respect. He went on. After entering Tangxuan, the Yuan Yi can be transformed in Tangxuan Qi. At this time, using lower grade unique skills will not be enough. For example, lower grade unique skills only need 10 points of energy to exert their power. But when you reach the Tangxuan realm, you can easily call up 100 points of energy. But the problem is that using these 100 points of energy to drive lower grade unique skills will not increase their power much. Therefore, when you reach the Tangxuan realm, you will need to plan some high grade unique skills. You can continue to use the and kill in 10 steps, but with only one hidden unique skill, it seems too thin. By the way, you can learn Mr. Fang Yao's ''Blood river knife. Since he is willing to teach you the experience of Blood Pagoda, he must regard you as half a student. If he is unwilling to teach, I will let Zeng swallow his old face and beg for you. Blood River Knife combined with Blood Pagoda is exactly the means by which Mr. Fang dominated the battlefield in the past. Although the compatibility of Blood River Knife and Heavenly Fire Record is average, it is not a big problem. There is also a secret method. Luo Yang held Wei Fenghe's arm and said, teacher, you just came back. Let's talk about these things later. He really didn't want to see Wei Fenghe so anxious to build a future combat system for himself, as if there was no time. Wei Fenghe paused and nodded. That's right. There is really no need to rush. I can't say how long it will be. At least I can still walk and move in the next 6 months. Okay, you go back first. I'll go see the principal. Luo Yang nodded and stopped. Watching Wei Fenghua go away, he bowed deeply to the back of his teacher. Time flies. Autumn goes and winter comes. In a blink of an eye, it was already the beginning of winter. On the third day after the beginning of winter, Luo Yan's Yan Yangjing was finally promoted to the 4th level. As for the Huazujing, it had already broken through to the 5th level before the beginning of winter. With the help of the blood energy in the blood pupil, the speed of practicing the Huazujing has always been ahead of the Yan Yangjing. After breaking through the 5th level, Luo Yan was not in a hurry to break through. He did not exchange potions for quick perfection. Instead, he planned to use the slow grinding skill to push the Huazujing to perfection. Then, when the Yan Yangjing was also perfected, he would use the Yan Yangjing as the foundation to advance to the Tongzuan realm. He did this because of Wei Fenghua. Wei Fenghua poured so much effort into him. Therefore, if he wanted to advance to the Tongzuan realm, Luo Yang must choose the Yan Yangjing as a breakthrough. As for the skills, the strategic office had already distributed the heavenly fire accord. Luo Yan also engraved it into his mind by strong memory, and he could recite it even with his eyes closed. After breaking through the 4th level, Luo Yan went to see Wei Fenghua. Now that he had made a breakthrough, he would report to his mentor as soon as possible, so that Wei Fenghua could share his joy and achievement. Wei Fenghua was in good condition after being discharged from the hospital. He looked no different from before, except for coughing more often. People who didn't know had no idea that his life had entered the countdown. At this time, in Wei Fenghua's dormitory, after checking Luo Yan's condition, Wei Fenghua nodded with satisfaction. Very good, step by step, and very solid practice. Remember, every bit of your hard work before the Tongzuan realm will be rewarded after the Tongzuan realm. Towering trees don't grow in a day. It's very important to lay a good foundation. That's it. Your secondary infection. Luo Yan hurriedly said, it doesn't matter. Teacher Jiuying invented a blocking agent. When necessary, I will inject it. It can prolong the time for the red poison to attack the heart. It's not that Luo Yan didn't want to mention the Black Witch and the Golden Chamber to Wei Fenghua. It's just that now, he didn't want the teacher to worry about him. Wei Fenghua nodded, and a look of fatigue surged in his eyes. Although he looks the same on the surface now, he gets tired easily and sleeps much longer than before. Seeing this, Luo Yan hurriedly said, Teacher, you should take a rest. I'll go get you some food. Wei Fenghua did not refuse, and nodded with a smile. Luo Yan left the teacher's dormitory and went straight to the college cafeteria. When he arrived at the gate, he saw a figure. Lin Wei. She finally came back from the giant beast strategic mansion. Seeing her, Luo Yan remembered that Xing had mentioned before that he had consulted the strategic mansion about Wei Fenghua. He wanted to see if he could find a way to help Wei Fenghua in the strategic mansion. Now seeing Lin Wei, Luo Yan went to greet her without saying a word. Chapter 818 The Immortal Fish. The weather was slightly chilly. In order to give people a sense of the 4 seasons, the temperature control system of the underground city would simulate the temperature of different seasons. Therefore, now that it was the beginning of winter, people in the underground city had already added more clothes. Lin Wei wore a white tweed long windbreaker with a black dress underneath. Simple and elegant. She put her long hair up and used a pencil as a hairpin to fix her hair. She was in a casual posture, holding a tablet in her hand, with an indifferent look in her eyes, as if nothing else could attract her attention except research. Her temperament was exactly the same as Jiuying's. Maybe it was because of this that Jiuying accepted her as a student. Student Lin Wei. Luo Yang blocked her way. Can I have a word with you? Lin Wei raised her head, her eyes focused on Luo Yang. It seemed that she had just come to her senses at this time. She nodded slightly. Lin Wei walked towards a pavilion not far away. Luo Yang followed. Students passing by whispered, when did Goddess Lin come back? It seems to be this morning. She's been gone for a long time this time. It's been almost half a year, right? Not that exaggerated. It's only been about 3 months. It's Luo Yang after all. He actually dared to approach Goddess Lin. I can't do that. I wanted to approach her last time, but I found that she didn't even look at me. It was so embarrassing. It's okay, brother, you are not alone. In the pavilion, Luo Yan automatically blocked his classmate's words. Student Lin Wei, I want to ask you something. I have a respected elder who is very ill. Lin Wei sat down and said, are you talking about teacher Wei Fenghua? Luo Yan originally wanted to hide Wei Fenghua's situation, but now it seems that Lin Wei also knows it. So he said frankly, yes. Since you know about teacher Wei's situation, I won't go into details. Captain Zheng should have reported this matter to the Giant Beast Strategic Palace. I just want to know if the Strategic Palace has any way to treat teacher Wei. If contribution points are needed, I will actively participate in the Operation Commission next. Lin Wei shook her head. The medical department has studied teacher Wei's condition. I asked about it before I came back. They don't have a cure. All the plans can only treat the symptoms. And even if it's a cure, it will cost a lot of resources. The plan and the cost have been sent to Captain Zheng by email. Luo Yang couldn't help but feel disappointed. Really? Even the strategic office doesn't have a solution. But Lin Wei picked up the tablet, opened something, and then handed the computer to Luo Yan. Luo Yan took it over. It turned out to be some photos. The photos showed some inscriptions and patterns. The words on the inscriptions were ancient symbols similar to the Tesu pattern. As for the pattern, it was relatively simple, engraved on the stone. Because of its age, it was not clear enough. It could only be barely seen that it was a whale-like creature. Is this Kun? Luo Yan put down the tablet and asked uncertainly. Lin Wei nodded. This is a batch of items unearthed from Gixu not long ago. We found records of Kun on them. The ancestors in Gixu recorded an interesting thing. They believed that Kun was the mother of all beasts, that is, the Mount of Miba. The inscription you just saw means that the mother of all beasts used Kun as a mount to travel through the 9 heavens and travel between the Jiuying star and the human world. The Jiuying star is the moon. If there is no ambiguity in this record, in the distant period before humans were born, Miba would ride Kun to travel between the moon and the earth. In this way, maybe we can find something on the moon. Luo Yan's mind immediately flashed the palace that was found in Kun's body. At that time, he saw Miba stepping on a creature similar to Kun. You don't seem surprised. Lin Wei keenly noticed the expression on Luo Yan's face. Luo Yan said frankly, at that time, I was in Kun's palace and found a portrait of Miba. In the portrait, she was stepping on Kun. Lin Wei blinked. Why didn't I hear you mention it last time? Luo Yan shrugged. I originally thought that it was just the painter's imagination. Just like the Miba I saw, she had a golden vertical pupil and a blurry face. But the one I saw in the strategic palace had no vertical pupils, and her facial features could be seen clearly. Who knows which of these paintings are imagined and which are real records? Lin Wei nodded. That makes sense. Now it seems that what you saw should be the real record. Miba stepping on Kun, with vertical pupils on her face. This is more in line with the image of the mother of all beasts. Luo Yan returned the tablet to her. No matter which one is true and which one is false, or all the records are true, Miba just has different postures and shows people different images. But what does this have to do with teacher Wei's situation? Lin Wei stood up the tablet and showed the screen to Luo Yan. Miba has nothing to do with teacher Wei's situation. Is it Kun that is related? According to the inscription, our ancestors believed that Kun was immortal. It will evolve into Peng at some point. This kind of evolution is not the kind of level leap from a overlord class beast to a nightmare class beast, but a complete and thorough sublimation. It is an evolution from one species to another completely unrelated new species. Therefore, our ancestors believed that Kun would transform into Peng and be able to travel through the galaxy. And when Kun's lifespan dies, it will transform into a fish. She pointed to the fish with simple lines that Luo Yan had just seen. After degenerating into a fish, Kun went into the river and into the sea and was able to become a Kun again and then experience the cycle of life again. This cycle repeats endlessly. There may be only one Kun in the entire Yanfu space. The reason why it is so special may be that Miba, the mother of all beasts, transformed her own vehicle. Let it be used by itself for generations to come. Kun is a unique giant beast. If we can crack the secret of its immortality, no, we don't have to crack it completely. Even if we can only crack a little, we can solve many problems. For example, the situation of teacher Wei Fenghua. A strange light flashed across Luo Yan's red eyes. Mingyu. He suddenly remembered the information he had when he saw the Mingyu. Mingyu, there is a fish in the North Ming, and its name is Kun. Kun Peng is a strange beast that does not easily go through life and death. Before Kun is seriously injured and about to die, it can condense and discharge its essence and finally turn into a Mingyu. Mingyu is the young form of Kun, carrying most of Kun's life essence and needs to go into the river and into the sea before it can grow into a Kun again. If there is a chance, you can be reborn as a rock and fly freely between heaven and earth. Luo Yan asked cautiously, if we catch the fish, can the strategic office study and crack its secret of immortality? He was so cautious. After all, this was related to the life of his mentor. Chapter 819 Hope. Lin Wei shook her head. It can only be said that there is a chance, but no one can guarantee this. Besides, teacher Wei doesn't have much time left. But for research of this level, it may be difficult to produce results in a short period of time. A few words almost extinguished the fire that had just ignited in Luo Yan's heart. But at least there is a hope. Luo Yan clenched his fists tightly. He didn't care about many people in this world. Before he came to the underground city, only his mother. The belief in finding his mother allowed him to struggle on the surface for 3 years and survive. After coming to the underground city, the number of people he cared about quietly increased. But there were only 3 or 5 people. Among them, Wei Fenghua was undoubtedly at the forefront. I have encountered the Hades fish before. I will find a way to catch it. Luo Yan stood up and said. Lin Wei nodded. It would be best if we can capture it alive. If not, we can collect its blood or tissue. Luo Yan wrote it down and said sincerely, thank you, classmate Lin. Lin Wei shook her head. I'm just sharing some information with you. It's just a piece of cake. Luo Yan thought for a while and said, do you know Mr. Xihao? Lin Wei looked confused. Obviously, she and Xihao had no intersection at all. Luo Yan said, it's like this. Xihao is the pharmacy teacher of our school. I think he has deep attainments in drug development. I don't know if you can send him to the strategic office. If he joins the drug development department, he may be able to do more. Xihao collected Luo Yan's blood and developed the red poison blocker. Although Luo Yan has not had the opportunity to try it until now, the fact that he can do this is enough to show Xihaoting's attainments in drug development. If he joins the strategic office and can catch the Hades fish, he may be able to develop a life-saving drug before his teacher's deadline. Lin Wei thought for a moment and said, I can recommend it to the strategic office. Yes, the teacher should be able to help. But I can't guarantee success. Luo Yan nodded. Thank you. After leaving the pavilion, Luo Yan got his meal and returned to the teacher's dormitory. Wei Fenghua fell asleep. Luo Yan could only keep the food warm and put it where Wei Fenghua could see it when she woke up and then left quietly. The next day, he met Zeng in the city lord's office. Zeng had just returned from a meeting. Take off your coat. He sat down and said, the strategic office sent a treatment plan and cost. I showed it to the experts in our hospital. If we purchase a few sets of equipment, the treatment plan can also be carried out in the city, and the cost can be saved by at least half. I plan to hide it from Fenghua, collude with the hospital, and trick him into doing conservative treatment in the city. According to that treatment plan, Fenghua can at least extend his life by half a year to 2 years. During this time, see if you can find other solutions. After that, Zeng said, what do you want to talk to me about? The underworld fish. Luo Yan briefly repeated the information shared by Lin Wei yesterday. Then he said, I want to try to see if I can catch the underworld fish. At the very least, I have to bring back its blood or tissue specimens. Although classmate Lin said that it will take a long time to study and crack it, it is at least a hope. Zeng just looked at Luo Yan. After a long time, he nodded and said, the decision to bring you back from the surface was indeed correct. Go ahead. I'll give you the necessary support. Luo Yan nodded. Didn't Pingao say before that they would try to intercept the Hades fish? I wonder if this matter has been resolved. Zeng picked up the phone. Then I can only ask Yunrang. He coughed dryly. I'll be back soon. Zeng got up and went into a lounge in the office. After a while, his voice came from inside. Yes, it's me. I had breakfast. Don't worry. I didn't stay up late at night. I didn't smoke anymore. Okay, I'll listen to you. Luo Yan hurriedly distracted himself in order to avoid hearing anything he shouldn't hear. Now he understood why Zeng called Jiuying Yunrang to avoid him. A few minutes later, Zeng walked out of the lounge with a bit of embarrassment on his cold face. He coughed dryly and said, Pingyao has not relaxed its work in this regard. They have tried their best to block some river entrances to prevent the Hades fish from crossing the river. However, after the giant beast disaster, many streams or tributaries of the river that have not been discovered before and are not in the records appeared on the surface. In addition, Pingyao City has just suffered a catastrophe and there are not so many manpower to mobilize. Therefore, with the support of the strategic office, they issued a long-term task. Let adventurers, gold diggers and even companies on the surface participate in the operation to block the Hades fish. At present, the Hades fish has not been caught, but there is news that it has recently appeared in the area near Fenshu River. It should be hiding in a stream or river in that area. Luo Yan made a note and nodded. If I catch the Hades fish, can I bring it back? Zeng nodded. I have informed Yunrang. If you can catch the Hades fish, bring it back. As for the task, at that time, Pingyao will find a reason to end this task and give certain compensation to the participants. That's alright. Luo Yan stood up and said, I'll leave immediately. He returned to the academy and said goodbye to Wei Fenghua, Bei and others. Luo Yan did not explain the real reason for his going out, so as not to worry them. He just said that Zeng asked him to go to Pingyao. If they asked, I believed Zeng would cover it up for him. Then, Luo Yan sorted out his clothes, took the dragon elephant, and left Guangling alone. Coming to the surface, the temperature was lower. Although it had not snowed recently, the sky was gloomy and there were no birds. When the north wind blew, the coldness whizzed up. If it was before the natural disaster, the cities in the north would probably have started heating. Luo Yan didn't feel how cold it was, because he practiced the Yan Yang Sutra. He couldn't help but sigh that when entering the advanced realm, the physical fitness of cultivators and ordinary people began to distance themselves. And it was a long distance. I still remember that when I lived on the surface before, even in the warmer north, when winter came, I would consider my personal physical fitness very much. Many survivors could not survive the winter because they did not have enough clothes to keep warm and lacked food. But now, if Luo Yan was allowed to spend the winter on the surface, the cold weather would not threaten him because of his cultivation. And with his extraordinary skills, it was no longer difficult for him to get food. After embarking on the path of cultivation, basically, the cultivators could be self-sufficient and live freely in the world. They no longer needed to rely on the group to solve the problem of survival. Placing the dragon elephant in the fixed frame on the side of the locomotive, Luo Yan turned the throttle, and the roar of the engine resounded through the wilderness. He drove the locomotive towards the direction of Fenshu. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.